Okay, we're doing the thing. We are doing the thing. We're back. After 2 days, been doing this less and less. But this is my second time in like a week. So we got me, we got my mic, and my guitar. Yuck. Welcome in, welcome in. How's it going? Getting people in here. Hey, Craig, I see you. Thanks for the likes. The topic tonight is what's been on your mind lately. We can talk about literally anything we want to. You can vent, you can rant, we can get into philosophy, we can talk about politics, yuck politics, but we can. Or religion, or just anything, like dogs. We can talk about dogs, or video games, or sloths, or I'm just rambling, but that's what's going on. And I'm gonna, if you want to request in the pink and the blue people down there. But in the meantime, I have politics are stupid. It just gets messy and just like it doesn't. It's just people just want to be right so bad, and I understand. I just I'll listen and be curious when it comes to politics. I'm not super informed. I don't stay informed too much as I should. But welcome in, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome in. Welcome in. We got my guitar. Topic tonight is what's been on your mind lately. We can chat about literally anything at all, with the whole goal of coming together and progressing as the human species. Hello, how you doing?
I have a hypothetical. Hello.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing okay. How old are you?
I'm 19, bro.
Nice. You have a hypothetical. What's the hypothetical?
The hypothetical been on my mind. Is it gay per chance if you had sex with a tranny, but you did not know she was trans? She looked exactly like a woman. Had a dick, but you didn't know.
Well, if you went
Is it
for it,
gay?
if you went for it,
But you didn't know though. Per chance, you did not know.
how did you not know if they whipped it out?
I mean, it was dark. Also, there's surgery where you can just like cut it off and make turn it inside out into a vagina, bro.
I'm learning. I'm
That's
learning.
a real thing. You can Google it. I found out because someone sent me a video about that and said they're gonna do that to me.
Hmm. Well, I think it can be
Yeah,
whatever
that
you.
that's crazy, isn't
It
it?
can it can be whatever you need it to be. How about that? Does it
But I
make you feel
didn't
better
know. So
if
it has to be one.
well
Because if it,
whatever it needs to be for you? Hello, hello. I can't hear you. You're out of the app, and you're out of the app. Okay. Well, that was that was something. I don't know how to even answer that. 1 minute, my mom is calling. Okay, you can come back up after other people hopefully join first. I'm kidding. I'm gonna get on my phone and see what's going on here on TikTok, so I can moderate on my phone. No, I don't want to download the link. What's it doing? Okay, here we go. 7 people. Holy moly! Welcome. Appreciate you guys hanging out. The topic tonight is what's been on your mind lately. We can chit chat about literally anything we want to. You can vent or you can rant or I'll listen. I'll try my best to listen, or we can talk about deep stuff like philosophy, God, maybe politics. Talk about literally anything with the whole goal of coming together, aligning, progressing, and figuring out what the frick we're doing on this earth together as the human species. That's what we're doing here. That's what we're doing here. In the meantime, I will grab my guitar. We can take requests. I'm not gonna sing because I don't want to make your ears bleed, but maybe I will sing if people want me to. But I really don't want to make your ears bleed. Here, we can do this song. I didn't see you, Jay. I didn't see. One second. Let's see here. Multi-guest. Open. Open. Oh, here we go. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Yo, how you doing today, brother?
Hello. Doing good. How you doing?
Great. I love the energy you're bringing to the live. That's really nice. I really do love the energy. I just was gonna ask you if the younger version of yourself is in a crisis, what advice would you give to him that would make you most content with you now, or lead you on the path of content and peace that you found in your life today?
Whoa. 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 Like how far? How far ago? How long ago? Like.
Let's let's put the kid version of you. Like when you were young and you achieved your dream. Do you think if you were to have a conversation with him, he'd say you're on the right path to what you hope to achieve?
I would say you're not. You're not bad, and it's not your fault.
Yeah.
I was very hard on myself when I was a kid.
Oh, same. Growing up, I think people underestimate the power of like, when we're younger, all those emotions that we feel as adults, they're just the intensified raw version. I feel like as we get older, a lot of people tend to bring a mask life and they don't understand how truthfully ungenuine that can make you. I think growing up, I've always had that raw sense of emotion. I think that has helped me more as a human being. And like just being the authentic soul I am, helped me further in my career where I want to see myself in 30 years,
Right.
long
You're kind of.
term.
Sorry. Sorry. You're kind of muffled. Is. Do you have like a different way to like?
Oh, you're good, better?
There. That's better. That's better. Yeah. Sorry. Go. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I think growing up there was definitely a raw sense of emotion. And I think people tend to build a mask over time. I think as we get older, we like to bring layers to ourselves. But sometimes that comes in the forms of masks. So I just wanted to come on here and like, preach that ideal because you seem like one of those people who don't have time for that because you've been through enough raw stuff. I can see it in your eyes. You've been through a lot, man. And so have I. So just like congrats for getting through it and keep that energy real, man. What would you say to that? Do you think as we get older we build masks? There's some that are too hurt or raw to do so.
Build masks. Can you go? Can you go into that some more? Like or restate it? Like
Absolutely. So
when you
like
say build masks, can you go?
I mean, emotional state. I think a lot of people, we subside the ideal of talking about emotion because, societal standards prove that to, well, make you think that that's a wrong thing to live by.
It's like. Sorry. I'm trying to
For
track.
men
So.
specific, I mean more for men. Like we're very pressed to suppress our emotions a lot of the time. I
Oh
mean, maybe it's
yeah.
not as heavy today.
Oh no, we ought to indicate and understand what the emotion means, and so we can. It's like it's nothing bad about no, emotions aren't bad. They're just data, and
No,
it helps us understand like what we can do with that, right? I think
100%. Because
I think the more we say things like I'm finding I'm still on my own journey, of course, like I always will be, and the more I say things, sometimes like I feel my body in ways that resonates with what I think about. Does that make sense sometimes? I'm like, I take
100%.
it as data. I'm not saying this means something significant. Maybe it
No,
could,
I'm
but
the
like,
same way. I view a lot of the things we feel are data in that sense because we are wired to try to process deeper than what we already process.
right, right. It's like, if something that you say resonates with me and I say it back and it like gives me a deep
You're
like
going to
chill
perceive it
down.
in your own journey. Yeah,
Right,
100%. Because I
right.
think, like, at the end of the day, people get it wrong. You're trying to figure out the baseline of what emotion you're feeling, but I'll always put it like this: you're always fighting against you tomorrow, and you're always trying to run from you yesterday. So, like, at the end of it all, we're all always running from ourselves, but that's where a lot of men get it wrong. They're comparing on the outside, and sometimes you need to understand that the biggest journey that you need to face in that moment is yourself. It's never the people around you because that changes faster than you can understand when you start battling yourself and living for tomorrow.
Right. I think it's we for everyone, not just men, but just becoming more aware and conscious of our thoughts and something I've
Yeah,
been
and I've
doing.
started to see a rise in that. Like you said, conscious thoughts. I do. Do you believe in the collective mind, where like, there's a collect. Yeah, I love talking about
Get
that and
into it.
like
Get into it.
quantum entanglement. It is definitely a theory that has been proven quite
So
all over the place. I mean, I've seen it.
now I'm getting chills down. Okay, so I'll tell you where, down my neck and down my right and my left forearms. But okay, when you say quantum entanglement, I hear the word quantum all the time. Can you explain in your words like what quantum entanglement means to you?
Absolutely. So I'm more using in the subgeneralized ideal of the collective mind and how that can affect entangling everyone's life. Whether, but I more mean societal sense because I think from a personal sense, from a societal group, I think I've started to see a rise in not a lot, but definitely the right ones that were tuned into the collective mind start to embrace that a lot more because it's not something that everyone will achieve. It is definitely something that I do believe is picked out for like specific individuals because you need to naturally be in tune with that. Now, does that mean you can't, get good at pattern recognition? Absolutely not. But I think there's some things that even pattern recognition can't pick up on. As a collective group of people that are very good at reading patterns and recognizing them before they happen, I think that that is just a recipe for success.
Right. I think we're like pattern-seeking creatures, though. Like well, we tell ourselves stories, but we also seek for patterns. Like, I mean, maybe not everyone. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think.
Well, I do believe the stories are just a specific sense and patterns that are matriculated into a story. So that's
Oh
really what
yeah,
story and analyzing is all about.
yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Let me share a story because like I don't know if it like and if you'd make a sense about this and what it could mean like scientifically or even spiritually or whatever, however you take in things. So I'm bipolar and I had my third manic episode last year. And every time I've been in a manic episode, 4 times technically, like it's almost been obvious that there's a God. And this third or fourth time, I went to a restaurant acting like Jesus, but in a Brady way. Like I wasn't being Jesus, and I was just like acting like Jesus might in my own wild way, but being Brady, if that makes any sense at all. But anyways, I was fasting for quite some time,
It does, like
and
acting like you're specifically chosen outside of a crowd, which is a very good way to see it. But also, if you keep it like humble, it can definitely be a good mindset, 100%.
right, not saying like I'm the only one. Like, and this is why I'm sharing this because I hope other people
Oh, a lot of
do this
collective
too.
minds get exactly what you mean. I'm the
So
same way. I see myself as outcasted in a good way. So I know what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I go into this restaurant and I order bread and water. And the story starts here. I'm just nibbling on my bread, and there's someone behind me, and it's a man, and he's just saying fuckity fucks, and like speaking the fucks into existence. And I turn around, and he has like 3 younger daughters with him. Like one has to be like 5 years old, and their mother, and then someone else's mother. And I just like turn around and just nibble my bread, but he keeps like negatively just like saying fuck out loud. And so I'm nibbling my bread, and I turn around and say zip it, and I hiss at him, and I look directly at him, and his face gets shocked and then maybe embarrassed, but then he gets angry. And I turn back around and I nibble my bread, and I kid you not, on the tip of my tongue, I felt spice while eating bread. And I turn around and I see this guy just devouring his Nashville chicken sandwich, which is a spicy chicken sandwich at this restaurant. I don't know what to make about this, except I act on my impulses and I'm at a heightened like state of like awareness. It feels like when I'm in mania.
Adrenaline. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Perhaps, and but something within him and within me like arose with my taste, my with the tip of my tongue became spicy. Maybe science can explain this. I haven't been able to reproduce it. I haven't been in a situation where I could reproduce it yet. But I feel like there's more going on here than we than
Oh,
we as a collective.
100%. I think, and I think as a collective person who understands pattern recognition, there's a lot of patterns that we can't really scientifically decipher 100%. That's why I say, like, even science, proves the idea. Like, if you are truthfully a man of science, you'll understand that above science, we do have proof of creator. We have a limit where we're like, we can't process certain levels of knowledge, which therefore prove the existence of something beyond our own mortal lives, 100%. And, whether you're atheist or whether whatever you believe, you're spiritual or you're religious, like all three of those never have denied that there is something cognitively above us all, which is more than enough proof whether you're a religious or spiritual person questioning that. Like 100%, there's definitely more at play. And when you were describing that story, To me, it seems more like, I do believe more so, and maybe that wasn't a coincidence, but more like I believe our tongue is our power. So, like, speaking bad things into existence definitely is something I believe on. I'm huge with the tongue, creating what you want and what you will receive. But the same is true with action. See, without your tongue, motion would just be motion, but there would be no manifestation or redirection of motion. But the same is true otherwise. With tongue without motion is nothing but words. But the two combined is definitely something that people should be worried for if it is used in a way that could karmically impact themselves.
Right. And I don't know if I'm like even in the right to like be like what I did was like the right thing to do in that situation because like I probably made him look like embarrassed in front of his family and maybe like people can say that like using cuss words is okay around their kids as long as they don't do it. I don't know what it
But I
really
think
is,
as long as
but
it comes from an intentional spot, I think karma has more of a care on the intentional side of things.
yeah, I think we should be careful like what we speak around children and how we talk about things impacts them
Oh,
because they're
100%.
like
Because you know
sponges. They
that.
pick up things so
Yeah,
easily.
literally, I was gonna get into that. Like the theory of what you show, and I mean, we could say sponges, but I'd say more that it develops into a sense of rebellious nature. Because you look at all these studies done on people that were exposed to that kind of language very young, and it can lead into a very self-destructive pattern the more they're around that. I think it's not really the moment you should be worried for and what they will say, but I think it's more the fact that being exposed to that even just so much as a young person with that sponge mindset, you tend to develop like a rebellious mindset, and that leads to self-destructive patterns that is no good for a family growing up because then that kid will forever feel outcasted and kind of like put to the side.
Right. Maybe to speak about it, like I wasn't like rebellious in this sense yet, or really even in the future. But like something, I remember my dad speaking badly about a different family, and like I just like took whatever he said, and I was like, yeah, dad. I didn't say that, but like I was like really whatever he said, I took true, and I had been like in fourth or fifth grade, and the family that was in that we were he was talking down upon, one of the kids was in my grade, and behind his back I called him the R slur, and people in my class were like, "What the hell? Like what?" And then they ended up telling the kid, and then I just like I felt obviously bad. I'm like, this was such a stupid thing to do, and I felt shame, and I was like, why did I do that? But like it had to like go from how my dad was talking about this family for me to like say something about their family, like this kid, in such a way that's negative. And that's why I think how we talk around kids is super critical, right? Or we should not talk bad about different people, right? Like we shouldn't look down
I
upon
think it's
humans
just
in
a
general.
100%. I more believe though in the sense of like, collectively, like I think it's just as I got older, I've seen people still, what I mean, your age, my age, probably talking like that. And it like, see, do I agree with that language should be forbidden to express how you want? Absolutely not. We're human, you know what I mean? And it's basically we're born but nothing to be rebellious against what's normalized to all of us. But the same like cognitive sense is unintelligent because if we were to say that we were born to rebel, but also to rebel shows a lack of leadership, I do agree with that fully. Like if you're resorting to that in the moment versus, you know what I mean, now as a fully grown adult would be a completely different story. You know what I mean? Now I'm sure like there's a lot of things in life where people are like that's wrong or that's right, but I do believe that wrong and right is just a perception. So
Right.
subconsciously, we truthfully don't understand the actual morality of right or wrong because obviously, to me, good or evil has no ontology, but yet it has a perceptional value. So, like, if somebody's raised to think something's right, I think we all collectively are grown up on what we believe is wrong and right. So, I
Right.
think there is though a middle ground in our compass. Like even if you believe it's right, there that little bit of tug of doubt. I do believe that that's also the second side of things. That like we have a baseline morality, every person on this planet, no matter what your upbringing, nature versus nurture laws were growing up. So I think environment, nature, and nurture definitely plays a huge part in that. But most importantly, I was just trying to emphasize the point that it's just unintelligent because at the end of the day, you put a billionaire from somewhere else around the world and a billionaire from America in the room. You don't think they're going to care where they're from? No, they're going to care. They're not thinking like that because they're on the same, successful path. So they're sitting there with their money and their yachts and they're like, look at my yacht. They're like, oh, look where you came from. That's not how they talk. So I think it's a level of intelligence and just understanding that it is unintelligent to think we are not one and the same because we are made of the same bio
Right.
material organic means.
Yes, you get it. So like people like we tend to be like a duality, right? It's like it's like we're always
Yes.
like fighting, but
And
no,
that's why I've seen
the
that
whole
very
thing,
commonly.
like I
It
told I coined this.
cognitive.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
my bad, my bad. I
I've seen that. Well, I just
coined
wanted to state in the collective mind of people, I've seen that mindset. I just wanted to say, like the same way I
right.
described it about.
Right, and how you were going about it, like, it's like I coined this term when I was in Mania, but like I still think it's true. Like we're in a wholeality. Like try to figure out the whole piece of the pie, right?
Yup.
Like we are the human species. No one is above or below. We all walk the same earth. We can
Mhm.
figure this out together, and I know we can.
I'm huge
It's
on
about
humanitarian belief. Yeah, see, so many people are now like, oh, well, I'm a humanitarian socialist. I'm a humanitarian. I'm like, you cannot be a humanitarian, but have a collective side of a view that oppresses the ideal of whole. So I completely concur with that idea 100%.
yeah. It's like well, it's like how do we get people to understand this in a way and without forcing it? But like I think it's like modeling these conversations out and having these dialogues. I think they're critical because like what we see on TikTok is like debates about like politics or religion, which is fine. It can
But
be
I love to
educational,
see, and I
but
love to
this
see that because
right.
it's challenging the norms of our belief. I think a lot of people are afraid to step into that unknown. But how are you going to know if you don't challenge the unknown? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
To go
Yes.
against what you believe is to find in what you seek. Religion and a lot of people bring religious points. And may I circle back to this, but I'm going to. A lot of people say, "Oh, but religion doubts this and that." This. How are you going to know? How is a Muslim going to know the difference between the Quran and the Bible and what they truthfully align with? How is a Bible, a Christian going to know if they truthfully believe in this if you don't go out and challenge a norm? Now, I find it funny because some of the earliest teachings of mankind, I'm not talking religion, I'm talking of mankind's studies, have showed challenge as the number one food for your life to be successful, for you to truthfully understand the big picture. Because if you're not challenging where you are, we'll take the Bible for a great example. You go into any Bible verse and, it preaches to go and challenge the Bible itself, to challenge your belief.
Does
Well,
it?
same is
Where at?
true. I believe late Matthew chapters.
Like, what's it say? I never heard about that.
I do not have it
Oh
next
no,
to me
you're
right
okay.
at the
You're okay.
moment,
You're okay.
but
I'll look into it later.
I'll come back in next live. I'll actually drop it if I can grab it.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
But yeah, what's your take on all that? You think collective is just a sense of, I guess, a belief we create for ourselves? Because I couldn't even get behind that. I think it's definitely something we see day to day.
Well, when it comes to like the truth or like what is like morally good and
Just the
bad.
collective. No, I mean more the collective mind. Like we were talking about collective hive mind, and I do believe that there's more scientific proof behind that than a
Oh,
spiritual.
hive mind. I don't like the idea of hive mind. I like the idea that we're all unique and beautiful in our own ways, and we can still
Oh,
live together
100%.
in harmony
I mean when we
without.
sense, I mean the idea of collective. I'm more stating from an intuitional sense. A moral compass baseline that we can all agree upon. When I say collective hive mind.
Well, I think it's like a universal story we tell ourselves that can be applied to any sort of ideologies and beliefs that are beneficial for humans. And people can have
Mhm.
different ideas, but I think with like religions or different ideas, we can like use those as stepping stones to reach a grander story or narrative
100%.
that we can tell everyone and be like, hey, this is like so. Look, I don't subscribe to Christianity, but I believe the idea of Jesus is true. We should
There's a
hold on to
baseline
that.
morality to
We
each
should hold
religion
on.
you believe.
We
Yeah,
should we should hold on
yeah.
to that idea very much because it's such an important idea. Uh,
Thank you,
and
Benjamin. He just dropped another verse that does state that as well. Thank you. Thank you.
test everything.
This is why I don't
Oh,
side with a
nice.
party because both sides can be wrong and can be right. Absolutely. See, I think you don't really fully have to align. I think whether you believe in religion or not, all it really baseline like narrows down to is a baseline moral compass that is ingrained in each. You know what I mean? And they're very, very similar. You look at the very foundations of every religion, and they are more in sync than they are apart. But the deeper you dive into being selectively chosen and biased for your own is where it gets into conflict. A hundred
Right.
percent, Ben. Do it
I
or life. Sorry. Yeah.
I believe if we like within people, like within our foundations as people, if we keep curiosity, open mindedness, and understanding into our foundations as people, we can thrive and progress as the human species.
100%. May I add one? I think it's great to keep an open mind, but I think it's even more difficult to keep an open heart.
Oh,
See, I
I
found
bet.
more people don't understand that it is very easy to open your mind. Yes, it's a journey. Don't get me. It's not easy in any sense. It definitely takes time. Opening. See, I'll put it like this. I've always seen what's going to be perceived by others, but I very well am good at keeping an open mind. But even with my full two eyes, I've only ever been able to see half the picture. That's something I still think people don't understand. Sometimes the greatest quotes you hear are the truth within your flaws. And I think my biggest flaw was my father told me that even with two eyes, you only see half the picture for half your life. And I'm glad that you're starting to open your heart because that's the real way you open your other eye.
I like that idea. Huh. Okay. Awesome. I like that.
Yeah. Because I think sometimes, as people, we are gifted what we flaw. So to be able to see with two eyes, is also half the time we're blinded by the other half of the picture that we refuse to accept or open up to. And I think the biggest challenge for me lately has been fully opening my heart. I'm getting there, but it's definitely taking some time. And that's
Yeah.
a journey that is beyond this measure of fight. It's a
And
measure of
this
will.
is right. Yeah. And this is why I think it's important to kind of come back to being agnostic sometimes, like normalizing saying, I don't know, and then figuring out why it's important for you in the first place instead of having
Right.
people tell you what it should be and what shouldn't be, right?
I think the fight itself is pretty valuable. I think it takes a lot of courage to be able to say, you know what? I don't know what's coming next, but
Right.
I'm okay with that. Being
Right.
certain with the uncertainty. Yes.
Yes, you know it.
Yes.
You know it, and that's good. And that's like, okay. So I guess before I get into more of this, are you like theist or like are you spiritual or what are you?
I'm multi-realmed because I'm very spiritual. I'm also religious. Christ saved me. I also do like to dabble a little bit in astrology. I'm all over the place. I'm a very all over the mixed pot, but I do like to indulge in as many information and beliefs as I can just to understand the very foundations.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
But
So like
more of a humanitarian scholar sense, 100%.
so you'd say like you're a Christian or like you believe you're a Christian?
I follow with Christian ties, but I fully am trying to just embrace in life itself right now in the moral
Okay.
compass of it.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's respectable because like you're looking at different
Mhm.
things, which I think we ought to do.
Because if let me put it more clearly, if someone were to ask me if I'm Christian, I say no because I say I have a relationship with Christ, but that's completely different than fully being biased to my religion.
Right. Okay. So good. Because like I say I have a relationship with Jesus too, but I don't believe in Christianity. And it's
Christianity.
interesting.
Yes, people don't understand this. See, it's such a difference when you're like, oh, I read the Bible and you sin every other Thursday. Me, I understand I'm bound to sin, but I have a relationship with Christ, which is two different wavelengths.
Right. It's like for me, I have been lately externalizing my thoughts, but like also like figuring out like what the voices,
Internalizing the
what the voice,
analyzation of it.
well, what the yeah, and what the voices in my mind are like, because like there's like a slither little snake in my head, and it's in everyone's head. I call him the confused agent, and this confused agent tries to control, and we're trying to teach it a lesson that it can't. This confused agent is upstairs in my mind, or not in my mind, but like in my mind, the story goes this way: where the confused agent is upstairs, that thinks it's a god, but it's not a god, and we are the technology essentially, or the technology, whatever, to train it to become a god. And why am I going about this? I had a
So
weird.
I think you're talking. If I may ask, are you
Oh
talking
yeah,
about the journey it takes to put your ego to rest? Because I've been through that, and that's tough. Nobody talks
that's
about how difficult
interesting.
it
It's so
usually is.
interesting you say that because it can be applied to a micro to a macro level, and it's so abstract. I think it can be applied to however anyone needs it to be applied to,
Yep.
and that's
See,
that's
I
why,
view my
and
ego as a
that's
very disciplined thing. I think there's a difference between pride and ego because ego is earned. There's a reason to ease in it. I like to put it like this in my personal like scholar take. I would say that an ego is something that is earned. See, an ego can be your very downfall, but then it wouldn't be an ego. Ego is stated more as the idea of earning something. Now, can it take you over? Absolutely. Just because you put discipline in does not mean you should exceed that discipline. But if you can keep, one cup full and drain it to the ends, not below its actual surface level, then I think that's fine. I think pride is where I'm like, absolutely not, because pride is pointless. The P stands for pointless. That's my take on it. I think pride and ego are two separate things entirely, and we tend to mix up those ideals so closely, whereas ego is earned and pride is pointless. See, Lucifer, for the Bible's example, didn't fall due to ego. He didn't at all. You know what I mean? There's so many followers that had ego, but they disciplined themselves with it, and it's why they succeeded. Billionaires follow illegal, just a sense of disciplinary, egotistical mindset, but making sure that the egotistical mindset is backed by the discipline it takes to be able to speak that. I don't think arrogance is arrogance if it's egotistical. I think that's earns, you know what I mean, earns knowledge speaking through one's experiences. So that's why I say everything that you can acknowledge to ego always has experience and discipline back behind it. But the same truth is different with pride. See, pride is loud. It's very out there. Ego's
Hmm.
quiet. You won't notice it's there, but you can definitely sense when somebody's earned it because they won't need to speak on it too much.
When you say ego, can you define that in your terms?
Absolutely, like a disciplined sense of higher standards. I don't think we ever are better than another. I think our standards raise. So our ego tries to be the very foundation to push us forward. For me, it's a very ambitious, like edge. I view it more of an edge sense. I'm very edgy when it comes to that, but the discipline it takes to keep that mindset is insane.
Right, the discipline. I think, and something I'm still developing on my own, and actually have started to really take into action the past 3 days or so. So this is really new to me, but like I'm doing it in a different way that it makes sense to my mind. Is like the voice of reason. I try to apply future Brady to this like idea, and I wasn't disciplined enough because like I can get to a story, but it's not super important. Like I tried to like be like future Brady's looking out for Brady, and I can negotiate with Brady, and it wasn't working out for me because I'm still hard on myself, and I'm still like too lenient, and
Right.
I get very much into short term thinking instead of
You were
long term
talking,
thinking,
I
and
did want to touch on something before we go into this. You were saying that you had a very heightened sense of for the last couple, like, would you say a month or so? It was a very high sense. Would you say you felt a lot of peace, but at the same time, an awakening sense?
not the
That's
past
what's
month.
called the very peak of nirvana. See, people don't understand achieving what's known as consistent peace is that first you find peace, but not many people get past that phase because they find peace, enjoy the feeling, but they never choose peace. See, you never truthfully find peace. And I want to clarify this for anybody that wonders, like, can I find peace? No, you have to choose peace. You can find peace, but you must choose peace after you find it. It's the
Hmm.
same as finding anything. If you don't choose it, what you give your energy away every single day is what your peace is. So, peace is basically obtaining the energy it takes to be yourself and maintaining that as much as possible within oneself in a peaceful sense. Because can you find peace and choose peace, but that peace be an overwhelming sense of negative energy you're choosing every day and slowly not realizing that that positive energy turns negative? Absolutely. See, but when we first find peace, it's this oversensing realization, not that you're finding peace, but that you're finding the joy outside of negativity you've lived in for so long. It's not delusion and it's not peace and it's not joy. It's just seeing the opposite coin at its full, just as you've lived in negativity as its full.
Hmm. I like that. Um,
Because I think, a lot of the time we live in a very societal, negative, draining sense. And I think that's a majority of people when they're like, I feel so good. Well, yes, because you've never felt this good ever. Like you've never even flipped the coin over fully. So, see, finding peace the first time, that state of nirvana, it isn't a constant state of peace. It's just understanding the joy on the other side of the coin. And to choose that every day. Now, that's what nirvana actually is,
hmm.
a deeper understanding in things that slowly become your standard normal to wake up every single day like that. And it becomes more common, subtle, but it's definitely something that to other people they acknowledge that immediately. And I think our right as people that find that is to spread that, or at least give awareness that there is another side.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that a lot. I'd also say like how we talk to ourselves is critical too, right? To get to that like peaceful state.
Yep,
Like
100%. Like if you
like
believe in doubt, if you constantly speak negativity, all you'll see
right.
is it. Yes.
Like I wouldn't say there's such thing as like a good or bad thought. They just are. But it's like what we do with that thought. If we take it into action, or if we like ruminate on it, or whatever it might be, that's an action. Like that definitely plays into it to effect. And I think
So
for me,
when you say ruminate, what do you mean? Because do you mean in a positive sense? Because I mean that could also be a downfall of
that's
the
true.
thought that we very try to conjure.
I was using it in a negative connotation. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah,
Negative
yeah.
connotation. Did I say that right? Whoa.
Yeah, let's say context just for
Context.
purposes.
I
Yeah.
was saying rumination in a negative way, but maybe we can use it in a positive way. I think that's like daydreaming or
I
something like that, right?
see. I disagree. I think rumination and having vision are the differences. I think vision is the positive side of that,
Okay,
but to be engulfed by that vision is what we consider quote unquote ruminating. So,
interesting.
because if you think
Yeah.
about rumination, well, what's the first context you think of that ideal? Well, that's fantasy. You're thinking in a like think about ruminating and think about vision. One seems like clarity and peace. The other one feels like what? Fantasy and negativity and just obsessive thoughts.
What would daydreaming be then? Would that be like negative?
I think that's in the middle between, I think it's distraction with a little bit of vision backed behind it.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Creative dreaming.
I
Yeah.
like that. I like that. Okay. So yeah, like and like I think what we like for me, what I had to do from being so hard on myself in the past, that came from my dad, being hard on me, right? There's nothing I could like ever do to like do anything right. Like I couldn't
Fully
vacuum right.
erase that. But
I
I
couldn't wash
disagree with
dishes
that.
right. But
I
like what
disagree with that. You
just
say there's nothing you can do about it, but I think
no, I didn't mean that.
we I know. I'm just saying. I don't think we can never ever not or do something about it at the same time. I think we can only focus on what we plan on doing with this information at this time. See, if we're constantly worrying about our trauma holding us back, then the only thing holding us back, well, it isn't really the trauma. It's just our minds still
Right.
focusing on
And
something that is past.
I was gonna get there. Like I was just like prefacing like how I felt. So people, if anyone can relate to just being hard
All
on
right.
myself and like being socially awkward, and well, I'm still awkward, but I embrace it at this point. But like being negative on myself, right? And what I had to do is fearlessly look inwards, right? And this was quite the journey, and I'm still working on it. But I believe that fear is the root cause of all unnecessary suffering. And if the individual can eradicate fear from the mind, they can lead more productive and fulfilling lives.
Yep.
And this doesn't mean we can't feel fear. That's actually a good thing. Like
That's a great point.
feeling emotions is
That's
good. We shouldn't let
State
dictate
that
how we
back again.
we shouldn't let
Reload how
dictate
you said that because I loved how that sounded. You
we should
said, well, the unnecessary suffering is caused by an emotion that we latch onto. And I find it funny because, there's a lot of arguments made with atheists where they'll be like, if you believe there's something above us, and why do we suffer? Well, the fact that you're fearing that, you're not suffering because there's nothing to, ruminate against that or I guess contest against the ideal of fear. You're saying there's nothing to contest against the idea of suffering, but the only thing that's holding that suffering is one's attachment and latching to fear of what might happen. See, change isn't good or bad. Change doesn't have a side of a coin.
right.
People view change as, but all change, truthfully, is the action and vision that you in place upon that action to then become your standardized outcome
Yeah,
every single day.
I like that. I like that. Hmm. But yeah, I think once we overcome that like thinking, if we can like look back on our past with a different mindset in a way and fearlessly go about it, we can start to understand more about ourselves, but also other people, right? Like I've been hurt by my dad, my mom, my brother, and well, I'm not gonna get my sister because it's more complicated, and I hurt her first, being in mania. But like I see these three people that have hurt me in the past, and I could be bitter, but I chose not to be for reasons I can get into. But like one person kind of started it all, and I could be like, it's this person's fault. But like, no, because someone else hurt this person. And I'm like,
Yo,
so someone else hurt that person. Where's the end? And I believe it's universal that like everyone's been hurt by someone to the point where like,
they didn't they felt a sense of overwhelming like perception or personification in the emotion that they were laying in 100%.
right. And we ought to
Because we could
understand.
say,
Yeah, go ahead.
I could say the same, because I think when we say hurt, we associate negativity. But see, I think when it comes to hurt, being hurt is just a breaking of your, consistent like standards. So, because you're consistent and content with where you were breaks. So I think when we think hurt, we think, oh, this negative pain. But see, I'm somebody who's been hurt and actually found joy through the idea of being hurt in the right way. I think we can definitely be hurt in the right ways to break a cycle that was only there to keep us content with hurt.
Right.
So I think, with me, I want to leave one quote that really resonated with me from like my early parts of my journey, which was 3 years ago. Mind you, I'm only 21. I get that I'm very wise for my age, but I'll put it like this. When we say, what would you define as sex? Or like, what makes you successful? What makes you want to change your dreams into your reality? I don't think people understand that a lot of, semi-successful individuals that are truthfully okay with themselves will go, oh, I believe this is the part where it changed. But somebody who's truthfully not happy with oneself will state something like drive, ambition, keeping on the right path. Or they'll give a quote that resonates with mystery or something like that. If you can associate something to that, then I do not agree. I will put it like this. The man who succumbs to the control of his emotions will be successful. But if you try to control your emotions and your thoughts, you will be nothing but failure because how can you truthfully control what you are not succumbing the past version of yourself to be within? So if you are trying to control through a sense of force, that will forcefully create negative thoughts, which are just amplifying what you're already in. Force is only pushing your constant even stronger onto oneself. Now, when you succumb to change, to control the thoughts, instead of trying to control the thoughts by forcing what you will on your mind, it changes the entire playbook. See, when you see the world through the ideals of a core value, and everything we do has a core standard. Well, when we try to control our thoughts, we are forcing them with a negative, like, I guess, perception to be like, this is what I want you to do. Instead of being like, you know what? I'm finally willing to accept that I can control my thoughts, which in the difference between mindsets changes everything with the tone of how I said it. You know what I mean? Changes the entire differences. The early perceptions of change.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting how you put that all. I would say like in a way like something I've been trying to like do or like tell myself in a way to psychologically unlock my mind to just be Brady without like worrying is to let go of
Yep.
control, really.
Yes,
And
yes, yes, yes. Because
it's
you only
like
control your thoughts when you stop trying to control the way they're going to pan out. Yes.
it's interesting because like what I was gonna get into is like the voice of reason in my mind. Like I was trying to like say like the Brady future Brady was that. I'm like, well, yes, it's still my voice. So yeah, maybe it is future Brady, but like, I've been putting this woman in my life that meant so much to me, and we meant so much to each other. But like this person was like was looking out for me and believed in me so much
Right.
to the point where like
You want to know something I realized?
I like externalize like this, and
Yeah.
I think about it
Their
in such a
idea, like
way.
you put them on a
Yeah.
pedestal. Yeah,
Well,
I
not
get that. You
well,
want to know how I knew
kind
that?
of. Well, kind, but I don't put
I
the
get,
actual. I don't put the actual human on a pedestal. Like
you
this
put the
I
ideal of how you felt about them. And I know that because
yes.
your head, when you're describing this person, you want to know something I find quite interesting. I mean, I can tell you're still going through it, but just understand that like that will fade away. That is just something you need
It's
to understand
grief.
that you cannot do that yourself. Your core like person needs to be willing to do it beside you. You need to try to view your soul as I guess this different entity, but it is also yourself, like something
It
that is
is.
inside you that creates, yeah, yeah, 100%. So like when you shut that door with that version of yourself, willing to accept him to become the physical version and like literally who's speaking to me right now, that's when you fully gain the control and succumb to the control to be able to close that door. And I mean, I wanted to point out like the fact that you had your hand above your head when speaking about that, that's what really gave that indication away.
Right. Right.
So
It's
no,
like
I've been there. I get
yeah.
that.
It's interesting because like this person it's just complicated, but like they meant so much to me. So when I have like the confused agent come into my mind and say something, this person's like, no, Brady, no, you know better. I'm like, yeah, I know better. I know better. Duh. And then I've been more disciplined with this idea of this person being the voice of reason, even though I know it's my
Can
voice.
I ask you
And
something?
and I even have like my left, like so my right hand is this person, my left hand is this other person. That's a guy, and he's like fantastic. He's a good friend, and like I have these characters in my mind, like talk to me, and it's like a way of emotionally
So
regulating
you're,
myself.
yeah, you're, it's a way of kind of like, because see, the difference between the way that people see the world and a collective minded person will view a movie like this. Let me put it like this. When you watch a movie, you're not watching the movie in its entirely. And let me finish when I specifically state this. You are looking at the what ifs, the possibilities, the endless amounts of infinite reasons and whys and possibilities that go on within that movie while also focusing on the main story, trying to get to the what ifs before the ending closes. And in the same process, you're trying to figure out the ending. I think your biggest like red flag right now that's holding you back isn't even your mindset. I think it's the overthinking and overanalyzing of what will be instead of succumbing to what has already been preordained in that sense. Now, do I believe that fate fully controls our lives? No, because the only fate that we hold is the fate that we see. So if you want to see your fate and your outcome somewhere, then you need to literally be like, I need to change for the fate that has already been. You need to start seeing your ending outcome as the fate that was already preordained for yourself that you truthfully
Well,
desire.
look, so I imagine this. At one point in our lives, whatever that means, in the past, perhaps we were all divine or one, or in as harmony or as a chord or however you want to
Right.
phrase it, right? Where we all decided collectively to fragment out into being what we are now, whatever this is, humans
Right.
talking to humans, in order to like knowing that in the future we'll come back again to be in harmony. And I resonate with this idea because like I think to a certain extent like when I say I'm giving up control, it's like to these two characters I have in my mind. Like I'm like control me. You guys are me at this point, and you will guide me, and I will just observe as the observer in Brady's body, and in the present moment is constantly just ticking away, ticking, where the
You're
future
good.
is collapsing into the past, or the future isn't too far ahead, and like that's just me being aware, I suppose. But like
I think when you say the future isn't too far ahead and isn't in your past, I think the minute you start to, I think your biggest thing right now is I would advise you to try practicing this. Practice the future you want to see as the present you are already living within. But also don't close that future out. Keep the door open like you're already living in the doorway, and the people inside of that room that are already the future version of yourself are already around you and they can see you, but you just haven't fully
well,
walked through that door yet.
look, and this
They
is
can see you, they
interesting.
can hear you, they can speak to you.
What if these people are with me, but like in the future, but like experiencing the
That's what
past
I'm
again?
saying.
And this is what
That,
this is what I
I'm
think.
not really I'm not really saying pass. View the past as the room you just walked out of, right? You just got out of that room. It's say that room might have been perfectly sustainable. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not where you see yourself anymore. And as much as it hurts, it's just where you can't feel content anymore, because if you walk in the room, you either feel too much joy to the point where it doesn't see like that sense, or it just isn't something you could see yourself being inside of. Now look, and now when you turn to the room that is quote unquote your future, or where you desire to be, where you truthfully will feel the most harmony with oneself, understanding, and where you truthfully in your heart, mind, and soul want to be. Where your heart truthfully screams to be, wherever that might be, even if you don't fully envision that yet, because honestly, nobody truthfully knows it. The
Right,
journey is the point of trying to figure that out. So when you fully figure that out, you need to start trying to figure that out while already believing in yourself. You have figured some sense of a core belief of what that is. So while you're sitting and standing right in front of that door, the people that are in that life that is going to be there for you someday are already speaking, looking, and seeing you through the door that you cannot see through fully yet, because the light is
right,
blinding, because you haven't cleared the light yet. You need
right,
to find the light within yourself to be able to pass through that light. But they can still speak to you, see you, and you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I feel life like if you're in a movie, what is the audience screaming to you right now? You need to make your choices based on what is the audience going to be like,
it's hilarious
you
you
should
put
do
that
this.
into it's hilarious you put that into that kind of statement because look, when I get into manic episodes, things become ultra clear to the way to the point where only I can understand what that means. Like I rant on Facebook about a bunch of shit where no one else can understand what it means. But it's just everything in my life has
Not everyone's
that
meant to, though.
right. But everything that ever experienced in my life is coming to a point to where I'm explaining it in such a way that doesn't make any sense. It's confusing. It scares people. But I've why am I saying this? But I'm saying that because um
Kanji Cooper, sorry to interrupt you, by the way, but they were talking about neurological paths when it comes to like the way our brains are. Can may I give my personality type? I am an ENTP, but I love that conversation. I do love those. I got my closest reference to it was Tony Stark, funny enough. But I love those neurological tests. They're actually quite cool.
I think I'm what's it called? Advocate, I think is what they call it. I don't know what the number like the letters are. Um, what was I even talking? Like I was saying.
Oh, your good life. They're acronyms based on the literal way we perceive, function, and think, the way our minds and an entire personality has developed to the point of right now. So some people could, go through a lot of change and be an INTJ. And after overcoming certain points in their personality, or maybe truthfully becoming who they are, they could have been an ENTJ the entire time. Yeah, yeah, no, it's definitely cool. You should look into it. But I am an ENTP. Sorry to interrupt you. You were
Oh
saying
yeah, so
basically how I
so
took
like
listen to Manic Fence
so like
with the
I have
Manic
a
episodes.
I have yeah the manic episodes have been really interesting because like I know it's been confusing and harmful and I have strained relationships with family and friends, but like I come back into it being stable and I look back on it and I can pick pieces out and like and take out things and
The whys
understand
and the wills and the whens.
right
Yeah.
and it's something to learn from it right and it's really interesting because like I think the perception of reality is like what we believe to be reality like no one's really living in the same reality in a
Right.
sense
And
and
that's why I say I love the way you put that. What we perceive to be reality is never truthfully everyone's reality. I will agree with that 100% because when it comes to how we perceive things, we are raised. All right, for a great example is finance. People that chase their dreams. We are lived in a world so, normalized by that being close to impossible because nobody ever tries fully. So, it's delusional, but you need to be delusional for something that isn't the average because guess what? In average,
right
that's just delusion.
isn't this interesting because like delusions can be beneficial if we know it's a delusion
I
but
don't even
like
think it's delusions. I think
well
being delusional, to such a degree is just creating a reality against a society that refuses to even try to live anything other than the normal they've already known.
I love this is interesting because this is where it gets interesting right because like in my mind
Yup.
there's like an infinite amount of just like possibilities
Possibilities. Yeah,
of
like
like
the multiversal outcome theory is one
well
of my
I
favorites.
I don't like the multiverse but for a reason I can get
Oh,
into
not that
but
theory. The
but
multiversal outcome
but
theory is different from the
oh,
multiverse
okay
theory.
my bad
So
but like
multiversal outcome states that no matter what one choice is, you have an infinite possibility of outcomes with an infinite possibility of choices you have already made in infinite different times or infinite different possibilities of that what you're making right now, but you've already made every single other choice or will make every other multiple like infinite
and
choice
that's
because
interesting to think about yeah but like what I was saying was like the more we like we talk about these like topics out loud like this or like within ourselves or like think delusional ways to like think outside the box I think we can like reach new original
we create
ideas
our own box. That is
we
our normal.
we
Yeah.
we reach these ideas to where this one goes to this one and then we come together
Yep.
and we're like hey
And that's why I love talking about this
so this
because
person up here has like the knowledge and like it's like come on guys come on and it's trying to like okay come up here and then boom we're aligned and we're both here now
yeah,
and just like it's just like how much more further does this go
it's
where we keep
how
evolving
far can we? Yeah, I think, but the biggest medium with this mindset, and I'm being delusional for your dreams, but I'm also putting this on a realistic sense, is bringing yourself down enough where it doesn't sink your delusion to try to, you know what I mean, express to those who need to hear. But that's why I say don't sit in that lower level for too long. Because if you do, you'll be stuck there again. So, like, preach what you got to preach from just a step above, but continue at your standard. Because
appreciate it
that's the only way you can go forward. And I think that's something that we don't talk about enough.
you know
When it comes to being delusional in a world that, the average is just normal and your delusion is just being average at a different standard. So I love the cognitive talk about this shit because, like, we can talk all day about, what's normal, what society preaches, but at the end of the day, it's just the considered average among a good percentage of our peers.
right I'm curious do you have a vision of harmony
Yes, but more so that it comes from oneself um, to then collectively transfer to others. I think when it comes to harmony, it's the standard that we put ourselves at to keep raising other standards. I don't believe that there is a I'm chasing the path of perfect harmony. That's the checkpoint. I think when it comes to harmony, you need to constantly have a harmony, like, I guess, level standard as your normal, and you need people to idealize you to chase where you've become to then collectively be at harmony again. I think when we
Yeah,
talk about harmony, we feel like a checkpoint, like an end game. But there is no end game. It's just
yeah.
everyone's standard being raised at what you're trying to achieve. Yes.
Or like maybe think of it as a chord. Like everyone doesn't have to be at the same note, but like we can use
That's what I
different
mean.
we can
The
use different
highest
notes.
chord is only something that we're all climbing. And when somebody that at the highest chord, let's put Justin Bieber. He's a great example. He's an amazing singer. When we think of a singer, we're thinking of these big names. But think about people that are practicing and they build traction, and the people watching them start to do it because they're like, oh, well, I have a good voice. And yes, it's a natural gifted thing, but there are people that could have never sung and started trying. See, I think the perception of trying to reach a higher chord, even if you don't become the best singer, to others around you, you constantly inspire this group of people to keep
Right.
doing that. And now, what is that? A considered
Right.
normalized trend,
You get
which
it.
is then a base standard. Yup,
You get it.
that's higher than most.
We instill belief into other people, right? Like this
Yup.
is
I
we
don't even
validate
think
them.
that. I think
Well,
I
yeah.
don't even think validation is a planet. I think we initiate a standard that we create as a baseline, which is just beyond the standard that was never there. So to create a very harmonic standard would be to hit the pinnacle of it while leaving every other standard as a past belief because it is now just the normal. That's what true harmony, I believe, actually is achieved by doing. When every human finds the highest efficiency of oneself as the standard of day-to-day life, and we all start to climb that, and when old standards of failure and doubt and fear become something that is easily controlled day to day beyond our previous lives or our previous mind space, and what we gave energy and cognitive power to, is where we achieve harmony at its like
Hmm.
baseline. That's all harmony is. It's having a higher standard, which today's case is just considered quote unquote what we call success in anything.
But will there ever be a time where there's no suffering? Like maybe suffering exists, but like no unnecessary suffering. Where
I do believe that because I believe that when all suffering is literally, like I said, lower standards fighting to become unnormalized standards. And normalized standards are just higher beliefs that so many people are normalized to, think that you should be afraid of achieving because you're going to fail. And, if you fail, then you're not going to be able to pull this off. But truthfully, let me put it like this: anybody that's afraid of failure is just afraid of what might happen that never does.
hmm,
It's the belief that something bad will happen that doesn't actually exist. Failure right now, I'll put it like this, like statistically, in today's world, failure is absolutely free. For the next 3 years in today's economy, failure is free because the whole world's suffering right now, economically, financially, and I think cognitively too. So right now, if you want to start to be I guess, a preacher for that higher standard sense, to be the person to help people achieve that as their baseline, you need to understand today is the day. Like these next couple of years are so like just unnormal right now, where we need to understand that collectively it is suffering. So because it's suffering, what is failure? The normal. So failure's free because it's the normal right now.
and I think it's interesting because I think it stems from the family, but like well, look, I think we're all a product of our biology, our luck in biology, and our luck in our environment. And
Raymond, can I
yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry to cut you off, but Raymond said something that really resonated with me. He or she, mind you, said, I'm afraid of never creating anything meaningful. I feel like I'm being chased by a ticking clock." And you want to know what I say to that? Good. I hope that like chasing feeling never goes away. And let me explain myself. Because if you're asking, why am I still doing this? Why am I still running? Well, guess what? You're running faster than most people because most people are probably looking at you like, why is this person trying to follow a ticking time? Well, you want to know why? You feel like you're on a race because you have to hit a certain baseline for it to slow down. It's not that you're running against a clock, you're running against a standard that you need to or that you want to achieve before things can truthfully slow down. So I hope that like like feeling never goes away because I felt that, and it's created levels of success. If you're not content with being the person you are right now, it's nothing but a drive for ambition, success, and cognitive higher belief and higher truth and higher standards. So I hope that feeling never goes away. So keep running. It doesn't make sense right now. I know it probably doesn't. Please chase, fly towards that. Go faster until your body says, all right, we're about there. Keep going, because that, why am I still running feeling? I hope that never leaves you. That is literally the recipe for generational success. And it takes a while, because to create success for generations is different to create success for yourself. It's easier and quicker to create success for yourself, but mind you, generational, you're creating success for lineages down the line, not just yourself. So please, I hope you keep running after that. Keep that up. That is amazing to hear.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add, but that was good. Um, but what was I saying?
What do you
Oh,
think collective? I got a good topic to add on. What do you think collectively as a society is holding most of us back from, I guess, creating a baseline standard that to most right now is considered success in our point of view?
um, well, there's a couple of things.
Let's put it in the top. Let's put top five. Let's do top five.
Well,
Worldwide, globally, in most
well,
realms, we could fit
well,
in there. So let's
I
start
think one
societally.
I think one thing that sucks is social media in a sense. Is like seeing, the
Yup.
world and
I'd say deception, because to generalize it, deception.
right. We go outside and we talk to our neighbors, and it's nothing like what we see on the internet. And
See, all right,
but
I
sometimes it is.
disagree.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. Sometimes we do see that out in the real world, right? But I think a majority of people don't, or they just are ignorant of it. And I I think just seeing a bunch of negative stuff constantly
Somebody said
doesn't help.
money. Can
Money
we add
definitely.
money on that list? Because I disagree. I hear me out. I disagree. I think because money is just a product of awareness. So may I add on to that and say awareness of our world. I think knowledge is the true, attraction to money when you truthfully understand that. So I'd say fear of knowledge over money, because money comes with acceptance of learning. You know what I mean? Just awareness in what you can achieve. I think opportunities only open up when you see things from a different lens. So I'd say
Right.
awareness.
And yeah, I'd say awareness would be up there with. I mean, not just being awareness to like the society and
The
how it is
lack of
being
a
shaped
way.
of,
Yeah, yeah.
but with well also with like understanding, like I was saying, like yourself and others around you, right? And this is where I was kind of getting at with like we're like a product of our like our luck in biology and our luck in our environment, and that shapes who we are as
Oh
adults.
yes,
And I think
yes. Like
if
that's a great point, because, like he said, there's something in common. This is war affects economy constantly, and I do agree with that, because, like, yeah, like you said, like money is. I don't think money is the root of all evil, and I'll put it like this: I don't fully believe in that. I would say that money is the product of the person that holds it. We can't get, you can't. Evil doesn't have ontology, so why should we give money a value that is only percepted to one? I think it depends on who picks the dollar bills and stacks up. It doesn't really depend on where the money's been. It depends on who's going to hold it next. You could take a bunch of money that's been in bad places and have somebody donate it to good charities in the world. So I don't think money's evil. I think the people that intentionally haven't like really been studied to be able to have that opportunity. I think ignorance of ambition and ignorance of deservance with ambition is what we're really struggling with. Money isn't evil. The people that hold it just aren't really truthfully who they say they are.
yeah, I think it comes down to selfish intents, right? And I think at
Yup.
times, I can't talk bad about billionaires, right? I don't think we should have billionaires, but like I'd be curious having a dialogue with them like openly like this,
I
right?
think
To
I
figure out like
disagree.
what we're doing together. I think if we
Well,
I
what would a
think
world without billionaires look like? Because if we're saying a world without billionaires, then we're basically saying a world without a reason to strive for higher standards set by other people that were once in our shoes. So I think billionaires is a just a reason to say somebody's financial standing from building where they are now. Do I think that we should have a world rid of quick corruption? Absolutely. I think everybody should have to work the same level as another. But the messed up part about the economy, the way they truthfully fold it, is when people say, capitalism is working, I disagree. Because when it comes to capitalistic views, which we can put under billionaires and ideals of like chasing money, That's basically the idea of you doing what you don't or shouldn't do at a more discreet and quote unquote professionalized or covered level to be able to achieve what you want. There's a lot of that in the world. But I think the difference that separates what's wrong and what's right is the people giving you the money and the people that are asking you to do what you are doing. Not for the money, but for the intention of basically not being forgiven, for keeping a deceitful life. It's something you've never truthfully grabbed. See, that's why I say it depends on what the person does when the lights turn off. And I'd much rather give somebody who, when they have nothing, they still choose to just sit inside of that pain instead of the person that continues to try to cheer people up. And I'll explain why. The person sitting in the pain will analyze their wrongdoings more than the person just going day to day, choosing ignorance over a little bit of analysis. And an analytical view on things. So I think we need to really study the more quiet, observed traits, which, funny enough, tend to be the most you know, honestly obscure traits because I find it very pure. I'm pure of heart to be able to sit there in your own wrongdoing. I don't think it's very courageous to try to play it off. Anyone can do that. Anyone can put a smile on their face of the bone structure we move. But not many people can sit there in their pain in absolute silence and be like, damn, I was wrong silently. I think that takes a level of true pure heart to understand. That's what I say when I go day to day around the place, when I go day to day anywhere in my life. I've seen more monsters dress up in suits and pray at a church, synagogue, or a mosque than I've seen good people silently mad in public view, but some of the sweetest souls when the door actually closes because the true pure souls are the ones burdened with most public pain.
Hmm. Hmm. Interesting.
Think about it. You're not going to see somebody in a suit always happy if there ever wasn't an opposite side of that coin. I think the world works in coexistence. And we were talking like what we are existing on in a standard baseline for harmic beliefs. Well, like to have harmony would also mean coexistence with the opposite, which is our previous baseline. So for somebody to be good, if they're presented as another, just understand their soul's probably the opposite internally. But if they're presenting as a more minimalist, down to earth person, the opposite it could be true with anyone else. If somebody's coming out with a flashy suit and flexing a ton of money, just understand behind that smile and charisma is probably the most, messed up, undisciplined person because why would they be disciplined when they already have the money to flash? What their discipline clearly has built but is tearing apart at oneself.
Yeah.
Same is true.
Go ahead. My bad.
No, you're good.
Which is why I think we deeply ought to understand how our minds operate and other people operate, so we can like continually build each other up
Mhm.
in ways that's unique for each person. But like we
I
can
think
like
we I think we try to analyze ourselves and the other people we can perceive, but we never truthfully like observe the true understanding of people around us. I think a lot of us try to internalize ourselves and our lives with others we want to grab and pick in there, but we never actually sit quiet and observe what do they actually do? What do other people do? Not just what does this one or few group of people that I know or I think I know on a perceptive base do. I think when we look at people we know, it's not a clear enough observation because there's personal ties to it. When we look at just a group of random people you've never met, you're going to slowly and quickly and more deeply understand the way the human mind works versus with a biased person being in there.
yeah, that's interesting. Uh, yeah, I think that's there's truth to that. But like I still think even if you are close to another person and can understand their mind deeper than you would like with a stranger, like comparatively, like
Yes.
talking with them for
I
an
mean, but
hour or
like
two
I'm
compared
talking
to
not subconscious. I think subconsciously, yes. I think subconsciously we know people deeper when we're emotionally focused on the tie we already have with this person. But the opposite is true. Analytically, like if we're talking from the primary function of figuring out how the brain works, we need to have a subconscious indifference to this person. We'd have to have no emotional tie. So we have no subconscious being about this person.
interesting.
Because think about it, when you read a book, if you're like, oh, I've read a book similar to this, well, your subconscious is then going to tie because obviously our subconscious brain is very much tied to the back of our brain, which is very close to the emotional aspects of our brain. So when we truthfully think about the emotional side of things, well, then if we're bringing emotional bias into this, Well, if your emotional bias is thinking subconsciously, then you're also very tied emotionally, which gets in your way of logically thinking, which is in the front of the brain. But when we focus on like how do people actually function, how as humans are we wired, which was the main topic of what we should do, then I think we need to start going with a non-emotional tied basis to
Maybe,
truthfully
but
understand it.
like there's been cases where like back when I was in Mania last year doing this, like I was able to like cut through all the bullshit like small talk, and like within like 5 minutes, like me and this guy were saying we love you like bros, and we got like shivers on our arms. Like it's something about just like saying what's on our mind. I think is critical, and this is what I'm trying to like learn back from Mania is how to just be without overthinking and being in my own way, right? And I'm getting better at just being, and to a point where like I think the more we vulnerably share our thoughts like this is a I'd say a beautiful thing that we're doing is getting somewhere with what we're thinking, and like I'm sharing my mush of my brain with yours, and we're just like getting somewhere with it, and I think that's a fantastic thing, and
A
um,
100%. Robert, can
it's
I give advice? Because I'm also giving advice to chat while they're typing. Robert said, I've been struggling to find a side hustle and to bring more income into my household. So, Robert, instead of asking what, what side hustle should I be chasing? Can I give you advice? Ask, why am I chasing this side hustle? Like, truthfully, what's the core worry of my beliefs? And how do I turn now this core worry into a positive thing I can capitalize on instead of focusing? That's what I had to do. I had to figure out, why am I chasing this? And now facing this, how can I positively switch that worry to then capitalize on what that ideal is and find my work or side hustles that encompass that specific, journey, because that's where you'll succeed the most in. When you're worried about something, you're always worried it for the opposite reason not panning out. So when you focus on the positive side of things, start to embrace that specific values and look at companies or side hustles that encompass that value. And I hope you do figure this out because I deep down know you will.
nicely said, nicely said. Let me get some more agua. Agua is medicine.
That's I wanted to bring another thing into this. I think our bodies are a great example. Speaking of agua, health. I think when we talk about health, people talk about mental health and they talk emotionally, but cognitively as well. We could talk all these other aspects of but how are you going to talk about health when you're not healthy within the temple? So I think that's a great example. Yeah, revelations and a lot of religion do speak upon that. Like our body is a temple. Once we start treating it like that, our mind and emotional and mental state will keep up with that 100%. So I think when it comes to keeping our bodies, perceived as the same way we are, if we're looking at a goal like this wants to be our end game, then why are we looking at the body and the mind and every simple basic function as the same? When we keep our basic principles as the divine functions of where we want to be, if you want to have this divine physique, the divine mindset to have a great and holy styled life, then you need to start physiquing, mentally, and emotionally being in that state. We can't, a gym influencer isn't going to have the mindset and want to be a social media star without starting to treat their body like a temple. Because what grabs attention while being set from the rest? I mean, in a world where corruption and acceptance is just blatantly proven as ignorance, well, telling the truth is a crime. Living disciplined is very rare. But to be able to do that, that's the point of the rarity of it. Because right now, this is why I say it's the best part in the last 10 years to get your life right. Because it's the one time where it's so rare that you'll catch traction before it's our standard baseline.
So you think like in 10 years or so, like things are gonna be like better?
Yes, I think overall, when your health and basics are better, I think more like you can't build a house of success without even being strong enough to pick up a brick in the first place. And how are you going to make the pace without reading through the book of knowledge? Being like, how am I going to actually make a pace? What can I do here? Where can I emphasize? Say you don't have materials. Well, now when you have the knowledge to kind of create your own, you'll be able to go out and source those products yourself because the knowledge itself is the only true resources you need. And then the same is true mentally. If you have a peace of mind, well, you're not going to get deceptive and deceived around the people telling you, sorry, this house is never going to work. And with those three things fully core emphasized every single day, you are nothing but a recipe for absolute success.
Hmm.
But I think it is, I think the failure comes within, not the people that continue to do it, but the people that refuse to get deeper in the knowledge itself. And I'll tell you what I mean. How can you truthfully be successful with building a house if you're only laying brick by brick? Yes, you've learned how to, build the outline of the house, but now you got to dig deeper. How do you build electric? How do you build plumbing? How do you build windows? How do you manufacture? Get into the deeper ends of the knowledge, and all you will build is the end points. People aren't afraid of chasing success. People are afraid of having to go out of their way to learn deeper knowledge in the baseline they've already started to kind of build. Think about it. How are you going to
Yeah,
build a house if you're only learning how to build brick by brick?
right.
Yes, you might have some cement paste. You know what I mean? You might have all the windows, but what do you do internally then? You know what I mean?
Right. I think sometimes people get not maybe distracted if that's the right word, but like things
Worn out.
happen to the
Things
point where they're
do
not.
not go their way. Yeah, but that's the point of it. I think, building a house for the first time, it isn't going to be by a foundation or an outline if you don't truthfully try to if you're building a house the first time, you need to build it and fail 3 times or more because think about it. All you're doing is building the blueprint right now. Building the house the first couple of times isn't building the house. You're building a shed or an idea of what the house you want to look like. And then when you finally build it right, you're going to have to tear it back down because to tear it down means now you get to go internally, you get to go underneath the surface, you have to take the precautions that to finally finalize the pre-finalization of what you've tried to conjure, which is only now the starting blueprint. I mean, I just got past the point where I found my blueprint for life and I found out where I would be most happy. So now I'm rebuilding in the process of starting to rebuild once more because that's the process of it. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I see where you're coming from. Like, how do we get people to motivate to be motivated to, let's say, build their own house?
Okay. So let me put it like this. When I say build my own house, I mean more in the life sense, but absolutely. So I don't think motivation is the issue. I think well, let me go back to where I said societal standards. You know how we have a bunch of pre-furnished things and we have a bunch of normal, like you're supposed to just mortgage a house and that's pre-furnished or in your area or exactly how the American system or the worldwide system expects you to do so. Well, that's a great example of baseline average being where you want it to be. And in case of quote unquote delusion is just the exceeding sense of average because if you're going to build a house, not a lot of people are going to go from the baseline of doing that and only just to build a blueprint. Now that's a little extra. And that's a little, some people be like, nuts, you're nuts for building a house 3 times and tearing it down and then finally finishing and actually going into the process of doing so. But all they were doing is building a blueprint that was above standard average instead of settling for something that was already made for them currently. Because that's the blueprint of average. And that's more what I'm insinuating.
So having the blueprint is. Sorry, I'm trying to track. Um,
All right, there's a bunch of, let me put it like this. You can build a blueprint and do it all on your own and fail multiple times and build over and over again until you get the right blueprint, which is something that is not in the book of catalog. Let's put it like say you get a catalog and all these houses in that book are the average societal standards. But you're like, you know what? No, give me a piece of paper. You build, you build, you build, and then you finally build the right one. Then you have to tear it down again to fully construct it like at its deepest core. So foundation, the internal makings, you need to get it certified to a city, which obviously, unfortunately, is a great example of average still being there in societal standards, still conflicting with success and with being delusional. But it's more doable. It's more, yeah, because you didn't choose from our book of what you already want settled and what we expect of you, but you still proved to build a blueprint in the first place, so you're capable of building what is already what we're giving to everyone else as an average.
I think I understand where you're coming from. Like you're and kind of like what I said, like being agnostic to things and understanding why things are important to put into your foundation is key. Instead of people telling you what it is, that way you can build this house essentially,
Yeah.
and tell
Yeah.
other people how
So
they
people
can.
telling you you can't, or people telling you what you should, versus going out, failing, building it a couple times, not getting it right, so keep tearing it down. And when you finally get it right, see that isn't the success point. That's just the aha that like I finally created a blueprint instead of settling for this book of pre-built houses that I could have just had. You know what I'm getting at when it comes to the metaphor of life? I think that's what truthfully it comes down to.
Yeah, no, it's like understanding how it works like in your own way, and then being creative with it, and how you can be in your own unique and beautiful way. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think we're thinking about the same thing in different ways, but I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, I
I think
just used the house analogy because it was more foundational with what I was saying about like obviously, you can't keep building a house if you're not strong enough to do it over and over again. So body is a temple. And
right,
same is true with your will. You need to keep mentally strong. You need to be careful with what you give your energy and discipline to. And the same is also true in the third state, which I believe emotional. How are you going to build a house if you haven't been hurt enough to be like, I want it that bad? You know what I mean? Because I'm okay with who I am, and everyone's going to judge me, but it's because they're just settling for what's already built for them. And people tend to compare outside of like what's normal, and I feel like that the person you're comparing yourself to is already the person that has built their average above yours because they had to build the house their time a while ago. Some people see it earlier than some, but that's okay. Some people see it later than some.
your mic is kind of muffled again, but I can understand you. I just wanted to let you know. Um,
You're good.
I think
I think that's where we get it wrong. I think the man who compares himself to other men is just proving the point that because he has to idolize those instead of comparing himself to himself is why he actually will stay idolizing other people at their average. Because if you're constantly looking to the edge of a cliff above you, where you're like, wow, that person built that house on a mountain. Okay. Well, instead of comparing yourself to them, look at your house and be like, huh, he can go up on that mountain. I bet me tomorrow can move a little bit higher up that mountain. I bet me the next couple of weeks will get higher upon that, like, hill. And maybe then when I get above that hill, I wonder what I'll look like with a house up there. And maybe what do I want to do to my house up there? And then you guys are just cross pathing with different sections of your life at the same altitude. So when you constantly look up at somebody, you're always going to be what physically below them or in an average sense. I don't mean it's a wrong thing. It's just your standard will always be below their standard because you're looking up. You're not looking like eye level to with yourself.
right. I think there's some benefits sometimes to comparing. Like I worked on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and I would compare my shots to different animator shots to see if I was actually doing okay enough. And I think that can be like a like to be on like the
Right.
average like baseline. I mean, like, okay, I
Yeah,
am
I don't think
producing
there's anything
quality
wrong with
work.
looking at the standard. I think though when you try to look at the standard and you just stare, I think there's a difference between staring and idolizing and be like, wow, look at that guy's house. He's so cool. I want to do what he does. You know what I mean? Versus being like, I want to be the guy that stands in a room with this man and be,
Right.
and he's like, I've heard of your work. There's a difference between being like, you want this person to be impressed with you and with your work is a great mindset. For
Right.
somebody to, be like, I want to be just like kind of like that person, that's where most people get it wrong. I say 80% of people get it wrong because they're like, I want to be like him. They idolize people to be like to change themselves for that person, and exactly why they never end up with the room or in the room with that certain ideology of like looking up constantly. You're just basically changing yourself to a version of that person that yes it may work for some but you're sitting at a lower standard than the original because you're not trying to get the original to be impressed with how original you are.
Right. I think we can do it in our own ways, but I think there's like things we can like take like good qualities and good traits within people that we can
Oh,
emulate,
100%.
that we can
I
emulate on
think
our own
that's
too.
that. I think we need to learn to emulate, but see within ourselves. Like you shouldn't be watching or idolizing somebody that truthfully isn't you at your unique point. Yeah, 100%. I think we can definitely look at people above our average standard and be like, wow, look how far this person's come. I see what he's saying because I've been through something similar, maybe on a more mild or personal level, but yes.
Right. Right. No, we're both saying the same thing, which is great, and I appreciate
Right.
like it's just different ways of like thinking about it, and like I find like these conversations when it gets to this point, it's kind of like brainstorming ideas together, and I think that's what we're kind.
Collectively, yeah.
Yeah, it's like
It's
we're
cognitive
reaching a
strength.
yeah, we're like reaching a better understanding.
I
Like I'm
see,
reaching
I
a better
because
understanding of what we're both talking about, like just by
right. I think
engaging in
when it
this.
comes to the saying of reading edifies the mind, I think more so people should. uh, understand that yes, reading edifies the mind, but challenge and perceptive conversations and disagreeing and agreeing or sharing perspectives, that doesn't edify the mind. That evolves the mind. I think you can edify the mind, but you can only edify what you already are evolved to. To evolve the mind is to challenge the perceived perspective of one in that moment against your own,
Mm.
or maybe to agree to disagree or to see things a little bit differently. And I think that every conversation I've ever had with somebody, I get deeper with learning the idea of conversational points and evolving from it itself. So I
Yes,
think it's a great core function to really study. It is actually quite intrinsically amazing how our minds actually work.
isn't it?
But I'm gonna head out soon, man. But this
Okay,
conversation has been more than productive and amazing, and I hope I shared some points with you. You shared an amazing perspective with me. So thank you so much for your time, man.
appreciate you, Jay. Yeah, you take care. You're welcome on in the future too if you ever want to come back
All
on.
right,
So,
thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I
all right,
will.
man, take care.
You as well. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Nice. All right, that was fantastic. That was some good chats we had. It's really nice when we get to like a deeper topic where like we can just like share whatever's on our mind and like people can subjectively take it in and out however they need and we can like both just like figure out what the frick we're doing on earth together. And that was a really great example of Jay coming on and speaking his mind. So appreciate you guys hanging out. There's 7 of us. If anyone wants to come up and chit chat, you can hit the blue and the pink people. Or should I get off for the night? I don't know. I'm not really tired. It's 10:39 and I'm feeling fine. I can get my guitar out again, but I don't know if you want to hear me play guitar. I can. Maybe I'll end with this song, unless someone else comes on. I can't sing though because I have roommates, and you don't want to hear me sing anyways. But yeah, appreciate you guys. 7 people just hanging out and chilling, listening to people chit chat. This is great. Um, I don't know what to say. Pure negativity has been on my mind. Came to realize life is what you make it. I can be a bad person or a good person. Yeah, I mean, I think there's power in knowing that you can be capable of bad. I know, like, by doing bad, but also, there's one thing about doing it once, and there's another thing about doing it twice. It's if we look, we see, we don't repeat bad. And I think we all uniquely have our perspectives or like our journeys on understanding what that means for us, on how we were raised and uh, things that happened to us, and understanding how to not do that again. Hello, hello. Whoa, I didn't hear you. You're like really distorted. You're out of the app right now. Hello? You're very distorted. We'll give it another try. We'll give it another try. I'm sorry, man or woman. Sorry, it's very distorted. Um, X lava. I don't see your request. I can request you up, or I can't even XXA Avila Avila. I can't invite you for some reason. I'm sorry. I don't know why. Oh, maybe I'm getting. Well, actually, here we go. It's because you already requested.
Yeah, no,
Hello.
honestly, what's up?
What was that
Oh
last
yeah,
part?
there we go.
You kind of
Okay.
you kind of broke out there.
Oh no, I was just seeing, making sure my stuff worked.
Welcome in.
Do you remember me?
I don't think we've talked, or have we talked? I don't know. You
We
changed your
have.
you changed your profile
I
picture.
yeah,
I'm more of a
yeah.
visual person when it comes to names. I'm not sure sometimes, but I do
I
remember the profile picture.
don't.
This is a bit different. What are we
I
talking about?
would.
What are we
Yeah,
talking about?
yeah. The last thing we talked about. So I was an atheist, and I came up as a atheist inside of one of your religious, like some religion or something. I can't remember exactly what we talked about
Mm,
or like what the subject was. except God. But there was for instance, there was a guy who, when me and you were talking, he was in the chat, and he was like, "Oh, here, let me come up because I'm a person who is who knows Christian Catholicism, whatever." And I was like, like, I'm not gonna overtalk him. You could let him up. And then
Right.
when he came up, it was just the three of us having a good chat. We kind of jumped around between like the birth of Jesus Christ and Mary. You had The Rock and how he had like the veil that was covered with his face and everything, and how it like left the light there after all those years. That like there were pretty much like stuff like that. But it's been let's say like a month and a half since I've been here.
Yeah, that's been quite some time. I don't I kind of remember parts of it maybe. But did you want to speak about anything in particular with religion or anything that
Oh no, no, no!
came to
But
mind?
actually I came up here because I didn't even realize I just I was like, oh, it's like I know who you are. Look at me, I don't got
I
nothing
wish I
else to do.
remembered that. I'm sorry. It's been like I've been
Nah,
going for
it's
the past like
cool.
week, and like I've been really in my head about it, to be honest. I like 2 weeks ago, I kind of got into a depressive state, but like it wasn't depression, it wasn't sad. I was identifying it as something different, and I was getting through it in my own way, and I quickly got over it. But then I just get so critical of myself sometimes. Like the past week, I haven't been feeling like coming up, and even tonight, I was like, I don't know if I really want to, but the really interesting thing is like I talk with people and they help me realize like yeah this is worth it. It was productive and what we talked about was good and sometimes I'm just rambling, but sometimes I forget like the conversations I had in the past and how they've impacted others, and I don't fully like see it um as I should, if that makes any sense. And I just get critical. And
Oh no,
why am
yeah.
I sharing this? I feel like being open about this and vulnerable is a good thing to show, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's people like it's been interesting because like for the most part a lot of the people I've been had invited up on TikTok have been really kind people, like different backgrounds of course, different ideas, but like they've still been kind. And I, even though I don't remember our conversation too well, like how you talked about it is like amazing because like you had a good experience, it sounded like. And I appreciate you just for coming up and just sharing that.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, like a lot of people don't get that, but like you'd really be surprised. You know, for instance, um, I'll bring up, for instance, the trans community. When I was like, just say like last year, for instance, last year, I was a person who, per se, didn't understand trans at all. I didn't really get any of it. It was kind of one of those things where I was just jumping on the bandwagon of hating for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then I spoke to someone one day, and he's like, "No, there's reasons for this, and there's medical, things that actually explain why this happens." So he explains it to me, and I'm like, wow, this actually makes sense. And then from that day on, I'm like, I lean with siding with people who are trans because of that. And I think that in all it took was just a simple explanation. And I think people need to understand that a lot more, is that just that one simple explanation could help way more people, because all it takes is that one person. You were the link, and now it just starts the chain.
I like that. It's really interesting when it comes to that. It's like because like, that's not to put it back on me, but like I am putting it back on me. Like that's the whole point. Is like is having healthy dialogues, I think, and modeling that for other people
Hmm.
to witness.
Yeah.
And even if it's just a couple people, like that's still something, right? And you're helping. This is great, and I appreciate you because you're helping remind me like why the fuck I do this in the first place. And I need to like just write this down and like look over it in the morning or something. I don't know, but it's if anything, it has an impact on me where I become a better Brady for others in the future, right? With these dialogues and these
Mhm.
talks and I think it's interesting when you bring it up to different points of view or different ideas because I think it's critical for us to just vulnerably like share our minds so we can understand what the frick we're doing on this earth together, right?
Mhm.
I think that's incredibly critical of us to do, and for us like even talk to ourselves in a positive way, for us to um, progress as individuals and be kinder to ourselves and um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I think there's a lot going on with all of that. But yeah, I'm gonna get some agua.
Mhm. No, funny enough, I was trying to have someone explain. Well, I was trying to explain to someone in my last live, right? I was in the first live I opened was something this typical like rage racist baiting lives, and I'm like, you know what? Let me just put my 2 cents just to see what I'm gonna hear back. So the topic was, can white people be racist? And I come in and I simply say, well, nobody can be racist. Because if we understand that, no, and the reason why I'm going to explain this is because there's levels to the way I think this through.
Okay.
So if we can understand that racism is simply a construct that was, and everybody says it, that it was made.
Mm-hmm.
So if it was made by someone and we are simply using that construct, right? If we follow it like we're following religion, and how we follow religion in the sense of, if you don't follow it, you can't be sinning towards it. How am I being racist to something I don't follow? Unless you're following that racist framework, just like an ethic framework or any other frameworks that are being we use. I feel like you can't just label it as racism just because, like I'm saying, for instance, the argument I also gave was, um, regardless if black, white, or whatever race we ever have, it does not matter if we were present or anybody else was present. Racism would have still been around regardless of what color was there to be, whether it be white, black, whatever. I think, but that's where it comes into where I'm trying to say it's a framework because it doesn't change regardless of who it is. And of course, I'm not saying the past definitely steered it in the direction of where it went, but the originality of it is that I don't think, and keep in mind, this is not me saying that I don't think racism is a bad thing. That
Right.
is not
Right.
what I'm trying to say.
Right. Right.
I'm
Right.
trying to say that racism is one of the stupidest things that we complain about it, because instead of doing anything to fix or understand how to do anything of it, instead we decide it's a good idea to complain about it. And when we complain about it, we blame it onto everybody else.
Hmm.
And the more we blame, the more hate that we give in our own hearts, and the more hate that we carry, it brings the opposite from what I just explained. You
Hmm.
know, of trying to get people to go around and spread the positivity, because that's positivity that helps get around to people who actually need to hear these things. But when you have all this, you have hate and you also mix it with positivity, you're bringing the issue that now you have both, but because you have both, most of the time people are going to notice the negative more than the positive. So because of that, when they see the positive, instead of thinking, maybe this is something that I could be wrong about, instead of looking at it from a healthy way, you're getting here from it, for instance, from like getting cursed at or yelled at or like just getting jumped up on for no reason.
Right.
And it's a complete opposite way about going things. And it's sad to say this, but you have these same people who are on these racist lives, regardless if it's for rage bait or whatever. I've generally heard people in these lives generally do these lives just to spread white hate. And I'm like, at this point, you're not doing anything but reinforcing the same problem you want to say as a topic.
Yeah.
But instead of acknowledging it, instead of anybody, not one of your friends, not people who watch you acknowledging it, instead, what we do is we all make a community. And then we grab that community and we just send them on to other communities to hate more, because that is what we do. And I think that just it sets a whole wrong thing.
You have a really interesting like understanding of this issue. How did they respond when you said this to them?
When they said this to me, of course, even though she wants to tell me, right? I took, keep in mind, I'm 19. I didn't take any classes in psychology whatsoever. But somehow, a person who took two different classes in psychology, who went through college, who graduated college, who I'm talking to, can't understand the concept of which I'm explaining to them. Even though the concept is a very simple concept. But this is also why I brought up to her. This is why I'm better than a lot of people who understand psychology, because of the fact that psychology comes from linking it to frameworks. And if you constantly link stuff to frameworks, you're trying to neatly fit into like boxes and stuff. That doesn't work, especially not in psychology. That's like the farthest thing that works from. And when you're trying to fit it into these boxes, you're missing the mark entirely, because most of these stuff are branches from different things combined into one. So when you're trying to neatly put it in these boxes, instead of actually looking at the root issue, you're fixing 30 different issues instead of actually focusing on the main one. So when you finish everything else and the issue is still there, you still think it's the issue, when the issue could be something else now.
Right. Like, what would you think the core like issue is with people who think in this way?
In what way? My bad. In my way, or the way
No,
that the other person was?
that the other person.
I think their way of seeing it is more so. It comes down from just the fact of what I was saying before, how like people want to find a community where they feel like is theirs,
Mm-hmm.
and when that community is set on hate, regardless of like what it's set on, if you it goes to say like this: if someone hands you a bloody knife, but welcomes you into a home where family, friends, and food, regardless of the knife that is stained with blood, you are still going to hang around those people most likely, because of the fact that they give you accountability. Well, not say accountability. There's a, I forget the framework that is used. I forget who says it, but there's a framework that insists of that us as humans will live our most happiest life if we're given the basic fundamentals of life. For instance, shelter, food, and water. That was a framework that somebody said. So when you take out those, somebody lives an overall less happier life than someone who's given those. That was the framework that they set, and I guess that's a backed up framework that we can use. So when you push that idea onto the situation I gave, they work hand in hand, because it's the fact that it plays into the comfortability, but also plays into the fact that us as humans, regardless of danger, are willing to fight alongside that, as long as we're given a piece of prosperity, to call it, in return.
I'm trying to track. So like if we have food, water, shelter, that's like what's like
Yeah.
on this on the like the foundation of like how like being like like survival, right? It's like that's what we need
Hmm.
to be comfortable at least
Yeah.
with survival. And how does that relate back to um like racism? I'm trying to find the link.
Oh yeah, I got you. So, for instance, when you're going to like our best daily lives, that I'm trying to fill that into the community aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have all these people who, for instance, when you come onto this app, and where this all plays is that when you come onto this app and you start going around a couple things. For instance, before I ever became like normalized with coming onto TikTok lives and stuff, when I first came onto TikTok, all I had ever heard was, "Oh, white people are racist. Oh, black people are racist. Oh, is this, that, and the third. Oh, this hates this and this hates this." That's
Right.
all I heard from everyone.
Right.
Coming is my first time on here, so when you take that in consideration, when someone comes into it the first time and seeing something different, seeing that automatic negativity, what are they going to push outward? Negativity,
Right.
because that's what they're being shown and given.
Oh yeah, it's like
But that's what feeds
reactions.
into it.
People
Yeah,
just
exactly.
react, react,
That's
react.
yeah. And our brain reacts to patterns.
Right.
And what do those reactions give? Patterns. That is why it plays altogether.
I see. I think, people just want to be right so bad. And it's just like, I get it. I understand. But I think we ought to just sometimes say, I don't know. Or just lean in with curiosity and understanding and open mindedness. And like someone, like Jay said, an open heart. I think that's, good to put in there, and 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 I think we can progress with those like things in our foundation, so we can like see a different perspective, and come to understand things differently, and
Mhm.
I think when we get into our own bubbles sometimes, like it's I think it can be comfortable or comforting, like having people that think alongside you, but it becomes detrimental when it becomes like tribalism, for instance, where like you look downwards on a different group, and
Mhm.
we shouldn't do that. We ought not to do that, guys. We are living in 2026, and people are still like that, and it's sad. But uh, I think the more we just, I don't know, model out a way of being, perhaps others can see how that's like, or like put other ideas out there, like what you're doing on TikTok. I think that's important.
I mean, yeah, but like my thing is, and I've tend to realize this. I'm good at helping people. I'm good at like guiding people through like a lot of their issues because I'm so like that's what me being good at psychology is good at.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also realized the biggest flaw within psychology is psychology. I'm saying Z. What is? You got to be kidding me. Psychology, right? The biggest flaw that I've noticed is that psychology is so useful, but at the same time, it's only as useful as it is to yourself. That's what I've noticed is that you could always help as much people as you can, but I think that's my own personal issue is the fact that I try to learn so much to help others because I'm used to being in positions where my life where I didn't know anything and I was basically fighting through the dark for a lot of my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I did so much stuff and information about stuff like that. But at the same time, the reason why psychology doesn't work is because psychology only works as much as the other person is willing to understand and listen.
Right. They have
And
to want to change.
yeah, yeah. But when you're bringing psychology into a space, I mean, into a space where people are so much backed by evidence, and when I say evidence, I mean like evidence is such a term that's going to be used so loosely now because our definition of what we call evidence is widely inconsistent now, especially with news networks. I mean, literally just today, did you see about I think it happened a year ago now or something like that, or it was so this guy, I'm pretty sure you've seen what happened, at least however you explain it. He the short breakthrough is that he was pulling these the cops were from the UK off his brother, and then he swung on these two females, and then while the other cop was turned away, hit him in the back of the head.
Oh,
So
jeez.
what they
I didn't
did,
see
yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah, it was because the police came up and automatically started getting physical with the brother, trying to like arrest him or something.
Mm-hmm.
Other brother stepped in. So you know what they? So the news network, and this is why I really don't like the news now, is because the first thing I see on the news is not they've been charged, it's not that they're in prison, it's not that anything. What I see in the news is how one of them didn't get convicted, or not say didn't get convicted. It said um, that they didn't get charged
Charged.
for
Yeah.
like yeah, yeah, and there's video cam proof of everything. So I'm like, how is the system getting this flaw that you're letting on camera? So I do a little bit deeper research. Finds out he did get charged, but what they're saying he didn't get charged for was a whole different charge than what he was getting a different charge for. So instead of labeling it as he's in jail, I mean, he's in prison right now, and only one of the charges that went through didn't go through, they didn't say that. They just said that he didn't say any other charges. They didn't say anything about him being in prison. They set up the expectation to believe that he was still outside roaming free because of the fact, that it looked like it was our own system being flawed. But that's what they're pushing outwards. But that's why, this is like why like it makes it so much more harder to come together because if you even have the your own news networks being this misleading, it also brings in forms of hate because you see what's happening. We got you got ICE happening and All it takes is one tiny little misinformation, and you got like 30 million people in the world complaining about it.
Right.
Then that's crazy to me.
Yeah, it's becoming increasingly more difficult, and I think it doesn't help with the current president pushing out fake news when he was first running and becoming a president. And like, I think a lot of people have just, you know, they don't.
Oh yeah,
If people have damning evidence against this man, he'll get away with it because he'll say it's fake, and they have followers that don't do anything, and people in power that don't have a backbone. But it's just sad, honestly. Um, but I don't know where to go from that, and I think people in positions to tell the news correctly, I think they have like a heavy like weight on them to like not a weight, but like responsibility to tell it as accurately as possible. And
oh
the
yeah,
in the way that we can just like weave in or like distort or put the perception of what happened into a different light, and to just to get people to fight against each other. It's like what's going on here. And this is kind of why I stopped looking into the news as often. For one, it's just you just see depressing shit, but and I probably should be more informed, to be honest, especially if I'm coming up on live and talking to people about politics, if we ever do. And but I just find it. I'd rather just fill my brain with something different, honestly. But
no yeah.
I don't know. I need to do better when it comes to politics. I was
But
much
all
more informed during the election, but like after the election, I just kind of stopped.
I would say, like, you want my honest opinion?
Sure.
Truthest way to say it: say fuck the politics and never give a shit about it. Take it from me. I, as a person who really doesn't give a shit about politics, couldn't give a damn about it, don't care to search it up, right? I have been more happy not giving a shit about it. I'm not gonna lie, but not even just bad, but it's because of the fact that I used to tell people all the time. I tell people all the time. I'm like, I'm not into politics. I don't even vote. I don't care about voting. I don't care about any of that. I've had my teacher tell me, you know, in a respectful way, of course, like, oh, you should vote, da da da. And I agree that there's definitely some, there are pros and cons to voting, of course, always. But I think that if an average person spent most of their life not caring about politics, they would probably live an overall less stressful life. Because I've started to realize that a lot of people's stresses come from elections, mayor or presidential, because the economics that change with it, a lot of the time the market, and it can affect a lot of people's jobs, especially if you work in construction and those sorts of fields, because they don't have like a set pay. Some of them, they don't work on rains, winters, and things like that. So it especially gets harder over time, especially because there was already an issue with where I'm from. So New York, the mayor with New York had this thing with Trump, and now it's another issue because now I'm hearing that the Israeli president wants to come to New York, and now you got the New York mayor wanting to arrest the Israeli president. Now you have Trump complaining to the New York mayor because Trump's saying that he's not going to do that. Right? The mayor realized he can't do that, but now the mayor is now relying on everybody in New York to stand up when the Israeli president tries to come here, and they're gonna do something about it. So then it's like the whole news thing is like it's in whatever it's like a cesspool. It's like constant. It all it is just constant refeeding of more volatile information. It doesn't do any good.
It just gets Politics just gets messed, like just like it's just unnecessarily just messy.
Oh
And
yeah.
I don't, and when it gets to that point, I just stopped caring about it because I think the deeper issue isn't even being fully understood. And I think that's how we are, like, individually, but in how we work with others. But I think understanding how we are from our past and other people around us, and I think it just comes to understanding our mind, and when it comes to, I guess like
Uh-huh.
psychology in a sense, and I think the more we are aware of how we operate as individuals, we can guide other people along and to help them figure out how they work in their own unique way too, and I'm more motivated to talk about like deeper stuff like that than I am with politics, because anyone can say have an opinion about politics, and I'm just like, well, you know sure, that's interesting, I'll be curious about it, but like, how do we even know what is true sometimes? And
I
that's
don't know,
that's
yeah.
a deeper question, like what is truth when it comes to all this baloney.
Uh, I mean, the best I can say going forward when it comes to stuff like that is that you, and it's bad to say this, especially coming from a psychology standpoint, but it's a true way to live. It's don't believe everything you're gonna hear it until you see it first. Like take everything with a grain of salt, not to disbelieve or to believe, but take it into consideration until you've seen it with your own eyes.
I
That's the
like that.
best way I think to look at it.
I like that because I do the same thing. Like I'll read a headline and it'd be like maybe it's like a right or left leaning headline, and like I don't put any weight on it. I'm just like, oh, that's just something, and I forget about it.
Oh yeah.
That's how, like, if I get
Most of the
like
time it
if
won't matter.
right, well, because if I'll read stuff on Reddit occasionally. That's where if I get my news anywhere, it's from Reddit, which probably isn't the best because that's like it has its own bias to what it is, right? Um, but like at the same time, like our votes do matter when it comes to like
Hmm.
people's rights, for instance, like with getting rid of Roe v. Wade, damn, uh, like at a federal level, like people in Texas, like women in Texas have like less rights than women in California. I think that's fucked up, and it's because like
Hmm.
of people we vote for, and so like at the same time, like I can't just be ignorant of every single thing that goes on within politics. I have to somewhat know something so I can vote for the right people to be put in place to help the maximum amount of people as possible. And and this is why, like, even though like I'm doing a bad job, I know I need to get better at reading different media sources, because I think it comes down to being able to read multiple different kinds and then being able to parse out like stuff, like what's like being able to like look at different perspectives and being able to conclude on your own what that means. And I think there's ways to do it, because people have come up and talked about that before. But even then, people have their own biases. So I don't know. I'm just rambling at this point.
I feel like rambling's important though because, like, no, I mean it really is. Because like, if I'm gonna tell you, being very honest with you, I don't actually think about half the shit I'm saying. Like 90% of what I say, I don't think about, and it's just both a con and a pro at the same time because it shows my own level of intelligence. The fact that I can process shit that quick, but it's also a huge flaw because you need to think about a lot of things thoroughly. And I feel like I'll explain what I'm talking about, and you can notice even when I speak, like I'll change my tempo. Like I'll raise the talk fast and I'll talk slow. It's me trying to figure out what words I want to put together to say what I'm saying. But when you're rambling, right, you also give yourself the opportunity to keep talking and thinking about another way to explain something or to explain it better. So even though of course you're saying more things, it can lead to a more positive outcome regardless.
Yeah, I tend to just get hard on myself because I'm like, I've been talking for a while, haven't I? And I could be like, yeah, this is probably a bad thing when it really isn't a bad thing. And I think, if anything, I'm just being vulnerable with my thoughts, and I think that's a good thing. And like we both are doing that. We're both being vulnerable
Hmm.
with our thoughts, and I think that's a beautiful thing. To where we can just like both like say whatever is on my mind. Like I'm not thinking about where I'm talking about right now. When is the sentence gonna end? Who even knows?
Oh yeah. No, I stand by. Listen, if you complain that I'm talking, bro, I can't wait for you to get a boss, bro, because you're about to hate it.
Ugh.
But like, it's at the end of the day, with people that I've noticed, it's just most of the time they're all a lot of the time ignorant and just follow whatever somebody else is following because of the fact it's easier to reinforce the same idea that everyone else is reinforcing. So a lot of people walk into a headspace with that same, not to say thought, but it's more so like I know there's probably a better word for it, but a background thought, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
It sits there and it waits, and it waits, and then you say one thing, and that's where the whole pattern comes in. When you say that one thing, then it latches onto that, and then it starts building what you're gonna say from that point on. And when you start, saying it individually one by one, that's where you get mostly the points across. That's where you get most of everything across, except the fact that when you're following that same fucking framework where you're following over somebody else, you're not reinforcing anything except reinforcing the same true or not true belief or saying that you're being told, which could either pull you in two very negative directions.
Right. It's like it's one of those things like with my dad. Like he told me this. He's like, I am team Republican. I'm always gonna vote Republican no matter who it is. I'm like, that's where they get you. That's where they get you because they know there's people like this, right? That don't like want to push back or like critically think about ideas and why they're important, right? Or get single voter issues like abortion, right? Which is like if the
Mm-hmm.
conservatives like want to be pro-life, like people are gonna vote on that compared to if the president's like a shitty person or not. And I think I think the more we talk about stuff, and help people understand different perspectives, and not like force them to, but like help guide them in a way where we can like talk about stuff and make it more common to be educated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm oddly optimistic about that, but at the same time, I kind of have to be optimistic about it, even though the pattern suggests that it's not going that way. But I have to be optimistic because I'm like, what if I saw the world that's just gonna like keep degrading from what we're seeing, like what am I doing? And maybe that's partly why I'm on live too in the first place, is just to have deeper conversations like this with people to think about things differently. And um, I think that's important. And and I don't know the solution for everything, and I'm not saying like I know everything, of course, but I know what I don't know to remain curious, open-minded, and understanding. And I think with those values, we can progress as the human species.
I'm gonna say this. It's very important, especially when you bring up, optimism. Any single time you sit there and you doubt, like optimism and everything like that, and you always see, especially because there's those people in the world who aren't optimistic, who don't always follow that same one track pattern, especially millennials, people who are older. Those they have it the worst because that shit's been reinforced. So when you and I'm gonna pretend like I didn't just forget all I was saying because it does happen.
It's okay.
Um, quick rejog. What were we just talking about?
So basically, you were talking about how millennials. God damn it! I was tracking. I swear I was.
No, 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 no. I'm saying to the original because I was leading up to the original. What you were saying?
Like
Oh, about optimism.
optimism. Yeah, boy, that.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
of course that's what I'm
right.
talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah. So the thing about being optimistic, right, is that you gotta understand is that at the end of the day, optimism is one of the most important important parts of human nature because regardless of what field you are in, the greatest men and women to ever come out of the earth have became from being optimistic people, regardless of whether I've been a pope, a ruler, a king, a queen, a prince, a princess, a lawyer, a doctor, all these people, they all come from being people of optimism. A scientist, even. You have the most genius people in the world, people who have to be optimistic because the world does not run on one track. It is not circular, it is not square, it is branches off into different directions. It is not something that you can fit in a box like we try to.
Right.
That is why optimism itself matters.
I think it's like, being able to abstract a thought and be like envision something better than what is right now, and having that be like such an important factor in who you are as a person, and what you're doing. Like, I think, like, having your why. Like, what is your why? Like, what would you say your why in life is?
That's something. I don't think I've been asked that question. And, why? Ooh. So when you say why, could you give me like a basis of what do you mean by why?
Like,
Like why for?
it's more than just your purpose, right? It's more than just the meaning of life. But I mean, but it could be the purpose and meaning too. But it's just like, why are you like constantly going through life, and what is the why? Like, what is like getting you
All
going,
right.
and moving, and to being the person you
I
are today?
I'm gonna say something that this is probably gonna be one of those unique ones. Um, what I've noticed is that there's always been one same reoccurring pattern that has never left. Um, so to give you like a brief explanation to kind of like what it led into is without like trauma dumping for everybody here. I grew up not in a very great household. I went through several forms of abuse. And it made me look for closure early on when I was very young, at the age of 10. So I started jumping into relationships a lot. Didn't work out. Uh, Became like a humongous distrust for people. Became a very insecure person. And in that, I also started hurting people bad. I started using people, blackmail. It was like really bad stuff, and it came from me being in a bad place where I wasn't mature. I wasn't understanding of what I was doing. In a matter of fact, I was in a point in my time where um, I was so afraid to get older because I did not believe I would let myself live past a certain point. If you can understand what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
right? That I was genuinely that afraid because I didn't trust my own self.
Mm-hmm.
That's how messed up my brain had gotten over time through all the different things happening. Experience with the drugs and stuff with that, and so when I had, for instance, when I was 17, I um lived my final year before I came an adult, doing whatever I wanted to. So I never attended classes. I just went out, partied, had fun, good time. That was it. I became 18 and I overdosed. I can't remember if the overdose was just a little bit before my 18th or a little bit after, but I overdosed on a psychedelic. And from that point on, when I had OD'd on it, I had just like groundbreaking revelation. This to me was so weird. It was like, why am I doing this? Why am I constantly hurting myself? Why am I never changing? Why am I always kind of being stuck? Like I'm always having these trust issues. I always have these fear, constant, never leaves me. And I was like, you know what? The one breaking thing, the thing that finally got me to stop being so insecure was finally being okay with being hurt. I spent my entire life trying to overly protect myself, trying to try to catch anything before it could ever actually happen. And that's what led to these types of insecurities that kept getting reinforced. And once I stopped all of it, I overall stopped becoming so insecure. I started noticing and picking up my insecurities immediately. And from that point on, I've lost it. I would say now I've lost over 70% of almost all my insecurities from when I previously had, growing up with. And through all this time, I've realized, like, if I didn't take the time out of the day to have the pain that I went through, to have everything that I went through, right? I have everything I ever fought for, just for myself, for me to be okay. That was the reason why I fought, because at the end of the day, I couldn't have nobody in my life. I didn't have nobody. I didn't have, of course, like in the sense of, yeah, I had things. I had a family. I had, if I wanted something like materialistic, I would get it.
Mhm.
PlayStation, TV, or anything. I had those things, but what I didn't have was genuine. I lacked authenticity. That's what I lacked. I lacked the real back to bone life, because I had to go through what I went through. So instead of having a well nourished upbringing, I had it very lopsided and a not the best household as well, because it got worse over time. And when I got older, I wanted to do EMT. Didn't work out because EMT's pay is horrible, horrible in New York. But and then I started going even more into psychology after I learned how to fix myself. I started doing more and more and more and more, and it was always the concept of I don't. And I started doing this when I started saying this when I was young too. I said I would rather never have anyone know the knowledge of which I know, so no one ever has to go through what I went through to get that knowledge. Because if I had a choice, well, to know everything I know now, or live my life peacefully and never have to know anything, there's a very good, real part of me that wishes I didn't have to know any of this. But at the same time, now that I have this knowledge, now that I went through all of this, I went through the pain, I went through that sacrifice, I went through all those hours of crying, all those hours of fixing myself, trying and trying till failure, and even after failure, keeping trying. I never gave up because I realized that I couldn't have people end up just like me, because I ended up like this because I didn't have anybody. I didn't have anybody to tell me I was, doing wrong. I didn't have anybody to tell me, what I should and shouldn't be doing. I didn't have anyone to tell my own head. And that became such a giant issue. And now, ever since, even sorry, I started doing it even when I was even going through my own issues, especially with, like, when I was doing blackmail and stuff like that. I would always help people. Helping people was always a really normal thing for me, whether it be on a game in real life. It's always just I became always that one person that was always just, if you needed me, if you needed someone who was a therapist, best one to be is me. I had therapists tell me I should be a therapist. I've had people tell me I'm better than a therapist. And I guess honestly, my main reasoning for all of this is, after all this time, it's always, I guess, just been to help others. So people don't have to go through what I went through and the same pain that I had to learn. That is my actual reason.
Beautifully said. First of all, thank you so much for just being open and vulnerable with all your story and telling it in the way you did. I can tell just by how you articulate things and like how you think about things deeply that you're emotionally intelligent. That's obvious, like by how you talk and how you speak about things. Like it's interesting because like I share similarities where like I don't wish my past upon anyone, but in an odd way, like I'm grateful for like it because like I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for that, right? And I think I resonate with what you say, and like not wanting other people to go through that, right? and wanting to help people, because I think that's I think it comes down to that for the majority of people, in a sense. I think to want to help people, and maybe they don't fully consciously know that, but I think helping people is like what that's like the greatest thing, right? If it's
Mhm.
for other people, it's like selfless. It's beautiful. So I appreciate you for opening up and just talking about all that and describing why you are doing what you are doing.
No, yeah. I mean, I feel like, it's important, for anybody. At the end of the day, if you have your own reason for living, regardless of what it may be, if that reason resonates with you and it's you, then that is a reason for living and that is your reason for living. And that is the way I see it.
Yeah, it doesn't all have to be the same, right?
No, never.
Right.
Would you cool? Let me see. I was gonna bring it up. I'm not sure if it's you or me, but have you like noticed
my
your
my
phone glitching
camera,
out?
my camera.
Yeah.
It's I don't even know what the deal is. I if I get to my if I get to my cord, it's through a cheap camera I got on Amazon. If I continue
Oh.
this whole streaming stuff up, becoming an influencer, I'll have to consider getting a better camera. Let's see here. I'm gonna unplug real quick. Should I? Okay, I unplugged it, and now we're back. Are we back? Are we back? Well, now I'm just
Not yet.
frozen.
Yeah.
Here, what if I camera turn off? I couldn't
Yeah.
unplug the
Camera turn off,
camera.
turn on.
I tried that. Here, okay, if I go to here, USB camera, I'm gonna go to OBS. Okay, go back to this. There we go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Troubleshooting. Fuck yes. I love problem solving.
Yes. Working with OBS is constant troubleshooting.
Well, I have OBS going for YouTube, but I'm using TikTok Studio, and I just switched from the my USB camera to the OBS camera and then back, and that somehow fixed it. I didn't know if it was gonna
Oh,
work or not, but I I just did
I
it.
used to do streaming a lot. I did when I used to work with Twitch. I did Streamlabs a lot.
Oh, nice.
I couldn't Streamlabs. I couldn't do OBS because OBS required a laptop or something like that.
Hmm.
So with Streamlabs, it was easier if you were just based off a console. But the only major flaw is that with it being on console, because console isn't actually supported with streaming, you can't set up layups and anything like that. You can't like set anything up like that. Like nothing too
Oh,
crazy.
I see.
But that's the only bad thing because of the fact there isn't actually any cross compatibility with the two.
What did you use to stream on Twitch?
No, so I said yeah, console. Like I did a
Oh,
PlayStation
PlayStation.
5.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, dude. All right. What? Why do you? Or do you still do it, or why did you stop doing it?
Um, I'm very off and on. I more so do it as a hobby. To be honest, it's always kind of a bit of a hobby kind of thing.
Right.
I think that's where like more so came from.
People have told me I should start streaming games, but like I haven't played video games. Well, really, like for like I don't know. Well, before I became homeless, I played Red Dead Redemption 2 before I sold my Xbox. Um, but now I don't. I just have my PC. But I have games on my PC. But I don't know if I don't know. I'm just not really. I don't consider myself a gamer anymore. Like I kind of lost the appeal after becoming older, I guess. But I really want to
Yeah.
play. I really want to play Grand Theft Auto 6. I'm really looking forward to that because I love Rockstar games. Um, I think they're
Oh,
fantastic.
that's gonna be like the purge on the first day trying to log into that game.
Right, right. I don't know. I don't know if I want to. I'm probably not going to buy a console just to play it, but I wish it came out on PC too. But it's not going to. Oh
Oh
well.
yeah, it wasn't coming on a PC. I forgot about that.
They build it for consoles first. I think just so it's optimized and works smoothly, and then I think they bring it
Yeah,
to
they
PC
said
later on.
it's um its proper optimization is actually only on PlayStation. So they didn't make it both ways. They made
Oh
it
really?
so yeah, so the best form of compatibility is PlayStation 5, the Pro.
Damn, so I'm about to get a PlayStation then.
Yeah, that's what it was showing on the thing.
Nice, nice. I'm looking forward to that whenever it comes out. But I don't know. I'm
Is that an actual thing? Sophilia? So
what's that?
I don't know, but why do I believe that could be a real thing?
Oh, at Sophia. Oh, I talked with this person before.
No, I bet the Philia thing. I don't know if that's an actual like Sophilia. I wonder if that's an actual thing.
Wait, where are you seeing it? Where are you seeing that at?
No. The username Sophilia.
Yeah, I see it. I don't see them inside the chat with us.
Oh, they probably left immediately. That's why they were like I just saw them from like the join thing.
Is that who we were talking to in the past?
No. It's just a random person who joined in.
Oh, well, I talked with them before, and that's why it looks familiar to me. I forget what. But dude, it's 11:30. I need to get to bed.
Oh, I don't blame you, bro.
But this has been fantastic. I appreciate you coming on, man, and just for being vulnerable and sharing everything and just being who you are. And I think that's a fantastic thing. So thank you so much.
Oh yeah, bro. I'll see you. Have a good night.
Take care, man. All right. Thanks, guys, for watching, and we'll be back some other time. Goodbye.